The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
My name is Shirley Foxno, City Clerk for the City of Tampa. Roll call, please.
Carlson.
Here.
Goods.
Here.
Hurtak.
Here.
Here.
Vieira.
Here.
Miranda.
Here.
And Maniscalco.
Here.
We have a physical quorum.
Madam Clerk, did you hear Councilwoman Hurtak?
Yeah, it was very faint.
It was very faint? Okay.
Oh, sorry, I don't have great internet here.
Okay, good morning. Madam Clerk,
Yes.
thank you. City Council, as you see, Councilwoman Hurtak is going to be appearing remotely, and pursuant to Council's rules, she has requested that she do participate, and Rule, see which it is, Rule 3G2 requires that a vote of council prior to participation making such a request. So is there a motion to permit her to do that? Second.
Goods motion and Miranda second. Should I do all of it? No. Someone has to do it.
Someone had it. Okay. Madam Clerk, you want to ask those in favor? That's true, there is no chair right now.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
That's the first.
We will now conduct the election for chairman and chairman pro tem for the Tampa City Council. Here are the election guidelines. The election of the chairman will be held first. Nominations do not require a second. Please wait to be recognized before nominating a candidate. I will open the nominations and close them after all nominations have been made. Votes will be counted by raising the hand. The vote will be taken in the order of the nomination, beginning with the first name nominated. The vote will cease as soon as there is a majority, which requires 4 votes. Having said that, nominations are now in order for chairman. Mr. Goods?
Bill Carson.
Bill Carson has been nominated. Is there another nomination? Yes, Mr. Moran. Mr. Citro has been nominated. Is there another nomination? I will close the nominations on Bill Carson and Mr. Citro. All in favor of Bill Carson, please raise your hand. Okay, that's 3. All in favor of Mr. Citro, please raise your hand. Ms. Hurtak?
Democracy.
Did you raise your hand? Did you raise your hand?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I'm not understanding. Yes, I raised my hand.
You raised your hand for Mr. Citro?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Mr. Citro, you've been elected chairman. Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you very much for the affirmative votes. I do appreciate it, and I look forward to a wonderful year as chair of City Council and helping the City of Tampa.
Thank you. We now have the election of chairman pro tem. Is there a nomination? Mr. Citro.
I would like to nominate Councilwoman Lynn Hurtak.
Ms. Hurtak has been nominated. Is there another nomination?
That's who I was going to nominate, so I take it out.
Is there another nomination?
Ms. Hurtak wants the floor.
I want to nominate Guido. I'm sorry, Councilman Maniscalco, sorry.
No.
Okay.
Sorry, I've had too much cappuccino.
I'm not trying to get involved in the process, but she has to at least decline the offer she was given.
Ms. Hurtak, are you
Yes.
accepting the nomination for Chairman Pro Tem?
Yes, yes. I guess. Yes. Are we doing the same process as we were before?
Yes.
Oh,
So you're accepting? All in favor of
Yes.
Ms. Hurtak, please raise your hand.
Wait a second.
Wait a minute.
Do you have a question?
I do. I mean, I'm going to be, I know we traditionally never speak during this thing, but I was planning on nominating Ms. Hurtak, but if she's nominated Councilman Maniscalco out of deference then to her, I'll just take that into account. In other words, I was planning on nominating her, but that's all I'm going to say.
If I can, Madam Clerk, if I can just inquire, in this process, is it appropriate for somebody who's nominated to nominate somebody else? Does it automatically call it Mr.
No.
Chair?
I can't speak to that, but I can tell you that Ms. Hurtak is not next door. She's doing family business, and she's thousands of miles away, so there's a difference
Delay.
in the system. Even though you got great technology, there's still a 3 or 4 second delay, or maybe more. That's why she's not actively engaging, because it ain't her, it's the system that she's in.
Okay. I will close the nomination for Ms. Hurtak and Mr. Maniscalco.
If I can, I'm sorry. Forgive me, this is very unusual, but the question remains, she accepts the nomination, was that stated? I just want to be clear. Okay. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor of Lynn Hurtak, please raise your hand. Okay. All in favor of Mr. Maniscalco, please raise your hand. Okay. Mr. Maniscalco?
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's always an honor to serve each and every day this wonderful community, and I'm grateful for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now have the election of CRA chairman and vice chairman. The guidelines are the same. Is there a nomination for CRA chairman? Yes, Mr. Goods.
Bill Goss.
Mr. Carson has been nominated. Is there another nomination?
I was going to again nominate Ms. Hurtak, if I may.
Ms. Hurtak has been nominated. Is there another nomination? We'll close the nomination on Bill Carson and Lynn Hurtak. All in favor of Bill Carson, please raise your hand. Okay, there's 3. All in favor of Lynn Hurtak, please raise your hand. Okay, Ms. Hurtak, would you like to say a few words?
thank you. I look forward to learning this role.
Okay, thank you. Nominations are now in order for CRA Vice Chair. Is there a nomination? Yes, Mr. Carson.
I'd like to nominate Orlando Goods.
I decline.
Is there another nomination? Vice Chair of CRA.
I'll nominate Bill Carlson. I'm sorry, Councilman Carlson.
Okay, Mr. Carson has been nominated. Is there another nomination?
I'm gonna decline that too, please. Thank you.
You're declining, okay. Is there another nomination? Yes, Mr. Vieira.
If I may, I nominate Councilman Maniscalco.
Mr. Maniscalco has been nominated. Is there another nomination? Would you like to say a few words?
I'm the backup quarterback. No, I'm very grateful. I've served in all the positions from chairman to CRA and this board, and again, it's an honor. I'm very appreciative, and I wish the both chairpersons of both boards all the best, and I look forward to a good, productive year ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very kindly. Appreciate it. Turn it over to the new chair.
Thank you, Ms. Shirley Fox Knoll. And thank you, everyone. Excuse me, who has the invocation today?
Bye.
Ms. Hurtak?
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, she's signing off.
I'm going to go enjoy Rome with my mother. I'll see you all next week.
All right, if we have,
My understanding is that it's a moment of silence for today. That's my understanding.
if everybody would please rise, let's have a moment of silence for all those who are suffering in Ukraine. I thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. Thank you. Please be seated. Roll call, please.
Carlson.
Here.
Goods.
Here.
Hurtak. Vieira. Miranda. Maniscalco. And Citro.
Here.
We have a physical quorum.
Thank you very much. Council.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Tampa City Council. Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney. Today is Thursday, May 5th, 2022. We're here at Old City Hall for the regular agenda meeting. The public and the citizens of the City of Tampa are able to watch, listen, and view this meeting on Spectrum Channel 640 and Frontier Channel 15 and on the internet at tampa.gov/live stream. Members of the public can attend in person here in City Council's chambers at Old City Hall or virtually participate in this public meeting using what is referred to by the state of Florida statutes and rules as communications media technology. That is, speak remotely during public comment with the use of CMT. Pre-registration is required, and that form is available at tampa.gov/public comment. The instructions for that are also on the City Council's webpage at tampa.gov/city council and also in the notice of the meeting. Now, to participate remotely using CMT for public hearings, pre-registration is also required, and that is also available on the instructions for that for pre-registration are on the City Council's website and in the instructions and in the notice. Just a reminder for those people who are participating in quasi-judicial hearings, you will need a device that allows your tablet or computer equipped with a camera or microphone to enable you to be seen by video and heard by audio. Cell phones and smartphones are not compatible. That being said, to allow for participation virtually for all the hearings today and the participation in public comment, I would ask the council waive the rules to adopt this as in the notice. So moved.
We have a motion made by Councilman Goods, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Thank you very much. Let the record reflect that the motion passed unanimously. Mr. Shelby?
Yes, the approval of the agenda and addendum to the agenda. You have the addendum in front of you, and there really are no changes to number 36, just an email, but number 57 is asked to be removed from the agenda. If council wishes to take it up now or take it up, actually, it's not on the actual agenda, so if you want to do that now, you can move to remove number 57.
Do I have a motion to remove item? And that is file number PW 22-72221.
Yes.
We have a motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor? Do we need roll call? Roll call vote, please.
Miranda. Yes. Hurtak. Carlson.
Yes.
Goods. Vieira. Yes. Maniscalco.
Yes.
And Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Hurtak being absent.
And finally, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
A request from the administration today to move up item number 56. There's only one item on the administration update, And Mr. Bennett is here, and he would like that opportunity to be able to do that now, if that's possible, with council's pleasure.
Without any objection, council?
Without objection.
Chief Bennett.
Good morning, council. Good morning, public. John Bennett, Chief of Staff. I'm joined here today by Lieutenant Colonel Conrad Schuppe and his lovely wife. Thank you for both being here today. The Lieutenant Colonel who works at CENTCOM is part of the Department of Defense intern program as part of their exit strategy of the military. He is actually our first intern in the city of Tampa, as the inaugural intern, I should say. And he worked directly under my office from the middle of January to the middle of April and did amazing things. He took on a project that we did not have the resources to do, which was to examine the opportunity for the requisite staff in the city of Tampa to operate in a teleworking capacity. You know, we did that under COVID conditions as an emergency under our continuity of government and continuity of operations. And we had asked the Lieutenant Colonel to use his skills from his military service to look at our civilian model and see if we could come up with a program that would allow some of our personnel and resources to telework for efficiency and effectiveness and equity and service within the city and to the community. And as he approaches his exit time and retires from the military, he was looking for a position within civilian government. So we're hoping we can adopt him as part of the budget process, and I'm working on that. And we will, of course, present that to you in the near future. But I also wanted to give council a chance to recognize the Lieutenant Colonel and McDill and CENTCOM specifically for allowing him to join our city government for 90 days. And his immersion around the city, and I think he spent some time with city council members. So we were really appreciative of what he'd done. And before I turn it over to him, I just want to congratulate you, Chairman Citro, you, Pro Tem, Councilman Guido Maniscalco, and of course, Councilwoman Hurtak for their selections today.
And Council, just in general, I do want to first thank the Chief of Staff and the Mayor for allowing me this opportunity. It was a great honor to be able to be inserted into the city. And what I discovered was the city employees have a huge impact on the community, as well as you, and of course the Mayor and the Chief. So for me to be integrated into the fold was just an honor and a pleasure, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Councilman Vieira.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much for that, Chief Bennett. We appreciate your service, obviously, and whatnot. And, you know, in our county, we have about 100,000 veterans, not including their families and loved ones and household members, et cetera. And we're always a very patriotic city, and I think it's so important for us to, you know, integrate that within our city government as much as we can. And out of curiosity to the chief, if I may, let me ask you, how many, do we have any, right, and I'm sure we do because we know of some, how many active duty military folks do we have serving concurrently in the city, either ATU, first responders, whatever it may be, if you know that?
Yeah, thank you, Councilman. Great question. I look at a report from our Human Resources Department on a regular basis to not only honor, but to make sure they're getting the benefits as they're serving the country and make sure they come back to a well-positioned job back at the city. And we have typically around 24. Right now we have 26 in some form. About 70% of those are in our public safety groups, and about 30% are our general employee groups that are serving the country at any given time.
Great, thank you, sir, very much. And just look forward to working with you, sir, and whatnot, and welcome, and just thank you for all that you do. Today's, I think May 5th is a National Day of Prayer, and I always say that our military are often the answered prayers for many people in our country and throughout the world. So thank you. And I would be remiss, by the way, he's going to punch me for this later, but we have in the audience Colonel DJ Reyes, who's one of our most, there he goes smirking at me, one of our most distinguished local veterans here. But thank you very much. And I know you're dealing a lot with McDill, and I know Councilman Carlson has done a lot to bring attention to the importance that that has to our city. So thank you very much.
Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, same thing. Thank you for your service and all the other service people out there that are serving now, and full-time reservists and the retirees and their families. Years ago, I was honorary commander, so I got to learn a lot about McDill. My legislative aide's husband was a squadron commander at McDill, so I learned a lot that way. And through the Tampa Chamber, we've done a lot to support people transitioning. And through that, I've had a lot of coffees with people that are looking at transitioning. So if you ever need to have coffee, talk about opportunities in the future, or if I can help with anybody you know that's looking to transition. My other job is I have a PR firm, and there are lots of great public affairs people that have been cycling through, besides fantastic managers and financial people and others, and they're just a great asset to our community. If you look at the leadership across our business and volunteer community, they're McDill people everywhere. Thank you.
Councilman Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lieutenant Colonel, it's a pleasure to see you again. And if I remember the numbers, I believe that McDill's either number 1 or number 2 in the whole country where people who come to McDill stay in Tampa after they retire. Am I somewhere near?
You're right. And it just so happens I'm from Tampa, so making my way to McDill, this is my final stop, yes.
Well, thank you very much. But that shows you that there is a bridge between McDill and the citizens of the city, because what you see is what you get. And evidently, it must be pretty good because a lot of retirees are staying here. Thank you very much. Congratulations again, sir.
Anyone else? Thank you very much for being a part of the Tampa family and for keeping, as Councilman Miranda said, that bridge open between McDill Air Force Base and the city of Tampa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council and Mr. Shelby, for accepting that agenda item moved up.
Are we doing, Mr. Chair?
Councilman Carlson.
Chief Bennett, are we doing your administrative update now? Is that your administrative update?
That was the only item.
Can I just ask you 2 questions real fast?
Chief, Councilman Carlson, you're
Number
right.
one is, I accidentally missed a meeting a couple days ago that was about water bonds, but my understanding from the community is that there's a discussion about building the water department, because the water department has so much excess cash that they're proposing to build a $42 million office building for 35 people that will include a welcome and education center. And, we had some concerns about Hannah Avenue, but with all the other needs in the community and the crunch on people economically in the community, I would propose that we would lower water rates and give the community a break rather than spending money on a 42 or even if it's a $30 million building for 35 people.
I'll be happy to take that back to the department. Thank you.
The Hannah Avenue project is, all in is probably 220 million for 500 people. It's just the per square foot on that is many times what the standard in the industry is. And this, I just found out about it this morning, it would be grossly expensive and unnecessary. And so if the water department has so much money that they can spend on that, I would suggest that we would roll back rates. Number 2 is that I think all of us, I don't know if anybody else was briefed in advance, but all of us found out on Friday through a press conference the mayor had that the city of Tampa has been under the second Justice Department investigation for civil rights in 7 years, and that started in December. And there was a claim made on Friday that was a result of a HUD letter. I happen to know that the civil rights groups here reached out to their national people last year after Renting While Black came out, and they demanded that the Justice Department do an investigation. But my question is, 2 questions. Can you tell us what it is? And number 2, why wasn't City Council notified? Don't you think that we should know if the Justice Department is investigating the city for civil rights violations for the second time in 7 years?
Yeah, I can't speak to the status of the investigation. I can only speak to the fact that as soon as we were made aware, we made everybody else aware through the mayor's office.
I don't think City Council was made aware at all. We found out through the media.
Yeah.
There was a press release that was sent on Friday that said safe neighborhoods and that victims should be protected. And the press conference ended up being a 4 o'clock Friday dump of negative information, which was that we were under a civil rights investigation. And I find that really offensive as an elected official. I had calls over the weekend asking, how come we're under a civil rights investigation and you didn't tell anybody? And I said, well, I didn't know. How are we not supposed to know that? I mean, are there any other federal or other investigations going on that we don't know about?
I would have to look into that. I'm not aware of any.
I'll make a motion at the end to have staff come back and give us a report on it. But the community wants to know, first of all, why was important information not given in December when it happened? Second, why was it dumped on a Friday afternoon? And the allegations in at least a couple media outlets is there was misleading information there. I don't know the facts, so I can't respond to it. I've only read the letters that are in the articles. Was anybody else on City Council briefed in advance of Friday on that?
I got a call
But besides Friday, nobody else was briefed, was anybody else briefed in December?
Marty. Oh, no, I never got a call on that.
Have you had your questions answered?
Thank you.
Or are you satisfied?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Councilman
Well,
Goode.
Chief, you know, the summer is approaching. Our young people are eager to work, and a lot of people call me asking, is the city's kind of going to change versus some of the young people picking up trash? And are there other opportunities where they can be mentored in other areas of the city during the summer work time versus picking up trash? So I said I would address that and ask that question. I think that was brought up some time ago, but we never got that answer. So if you can get back with us and reference that, because you know the community is saying we got summer jobs, there's money. Can we find a way to have some of these kids have other opportunities versus picking up trash?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think, as you know, with your time and your investment in our parks program, there's hundreds of rec leader positions and aquatic leader positions that we're still trying to fill. Fortunately, we were able to raise the rates for those opportunities during the summer. So, and we put flyers out in the school system. The school resource officers are recruiting, et cetera, et cetera. So there's still plenty of opportunities in the park program to have a workforce opportunity as well as a mentoring opportunity with city government.
But I think they're looking, I know we've always, you know, and the park has been a great place to start because it starts in the parks, but I think they're looking for a kind of transition of other areas that they might can be able to work in versus just parks and rec or picking up picking up trash. So if we can find a way to maybe find a few to start something, it would be a great start.
Okay, I'll talk to our workforce director and see if we can bring in some other opportunities.
Thank you.
Thanks for mentioning it.
Thank you, Chief. I'd like to discuss the staff reports and question if we still want staff to be here or whether we're good with members. Item 57.
From scratch.
We're good? That's correct. Item 58.
Is there anybody who wishes to speak on, to have staff appear on item 58? You have a memorandum from Brad Baird.
Okay. We're with the memorandum. Item 59.
So no staff on number 58, sir? No staff necessary.
Can I just say one thing on it?
Would you like staff to be here to answer those questions?
No, I just would like to make a statement.
Councilman Carlson.
No, I'd just like to say, Chief Bennett's here and maybe other staff are listening. I just think I've said a lot over the last 3 years about branding things, and I think sometimes our branding is often disingenuous. Having a press conference and saying that we now have this new infrastructure plan for neighborhoods, and now we're calling this Tampa's Neighborhood Design Build, and the public calls and says what's new about it, and it's just a repackaging of pure and pipes and stormwater and mobility. It's not really anything new. It's just defining it by neighborhood. And what neighborhoods really need is planning. We need to update planning. And I know the administration's brought in Stephen Benson, who's awesome, but we need to ramp up that planning quickly because replacing the pipes that we already agreed on several years ago isn't a new idea to help neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Carlson. Item 59.
That has been provided to the clerk, and it's awaiting a signature. You can take it up as you come along, if you like.
We'll take that up when we come along. Item number 60.
No, there's a 60-day continuance.
Okay.
So Mr. Chair.
Councilman Carlson.
This was, I think maybe I made the first motion. It says here that Guido made the first motion, but the idea here is that there is, in the allocation of the 500 million or so that's already been paid in taxes for the last all for transportation, some people are estimating that the city might get somewhere between 80 and 120 million. And the purpose of this, as I saw it anyway, is for us and more importantly the public to give the administration input as to how that money should be spent if it comes to us. And so I talked to Vic and he would like to see more about, have more certainty about how much money is coming and when. But the idea here is not to have a staff report. It is only to have a public discussion so the public can give us input as to what they want us to spend the money on. We know potholes and sidewalks are two major priorities, but if we had 80 or 120 million, how would we spend the money? That's really the question, and to hear from the public. Thank you.
Mr. Bide has asked for a 60-day continuance. Can we go ahead and take care of that now?
I'll make the motion to move 60. July 14th.
Motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Item 61.
Mr. Chairman, if I can, Martin Shelby. With regard to item number 60, I just wanted to be clear, that's coming back under staff reports. So anybody who did want to speak to it would not have the opportunity under staff reports. They'd have the opportunity to speak that morning under public comment, unless council wants to do it somewhat differently or set it for a workshop. However council wishes to do it, just so you're aware that unless council makes a motion and accepts opening up the floor for a staff report, which is rather unusual.
Councilman Carlson.
Well, I know,
I'm not in disagreement with the councilor said. However, you have the 50-50 deal. You have good people that come here to speak early and they can't stay in the afternoon and they leave. So you're getting more, but you're getting less on the other side. So it's up to the council to decide which way they want to go.
So what's your recommendation at the beginning?
Well, if the purpose of it is for the presentation and then to allow the people.
Presentation, just public input.
Just public input. Yeah.
Public comment.
So we put it in the morning on the,
Yeah.
okay. Do we need to make the motion again, or?
I don't know when it would appear on the agenda. They could speak to item number, whatever the item it is that day, under public comment. But to put on the agenda, is there
The council can direct the clerk's office what time they want it, at any time they wish to do that, sir.
So can we say 9 or 10 o'clock?
No,
What time can we say?
9 o'clock, start the meeting earlier.
Mr. Chair?
Fine.
9 o'clock, are you amending your motion?
Yes, please.
Second, for the amendment.
Councilman Charleston's made a motion, Councilman Miranda has seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed?
Do you want this before ceremonial activities and presentations to appear?
Can we make it the first thing after?
After.
And I have a comment on the next one if you want.
So, item 61.
Yeah, I think I'll make a motion to remove this from the agenda. The police chief sent a report. The point of this is that if a police officer in the line of duty gets a ticket from the city can easily cancel it. But there are situations where private parking vendors will give a ticket to a police officer and they have to pay it themselves. And unfortunately, I can't give the Chief O'Connor more feedback without telling her all the sources that I talked to. So I would just encourage them to look for ways to make sure we remove the burden of the police officers who are, trying to serve us all. And I'd make a motion to remove this from the agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposed? 62?
And I'm sorry, I just walked in from using the restroom. Are we going over whether or not we need staff there?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, no, memo's fine.
Item number 63.
Yes.
Have staff here for 63. 64.
See, I'm here, council.
Okay.
Yes,
There. Item 65.
same thing.
Okay. All right. We will open any other changes to our agenda? Seeing none, we will open our floor to public comment. I'm sorry. Motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Wait, we have, Amari Pettis Maximum.
Okay, I'm sorry. Ms. Backlund. Thank you.
Good morning. Congratulations, Mr. Chair. Kamaria Pettis Malcolm from the City Attorney's Office. I'm here, I represent the Citizens Review Board, and the board is here to, Mr. Chair, the chair of the board is here to present the 2021 annual report. And if I can ask for the chair and the other board members to come forward, I'll introduce them. And also in the audience, we have our TPD coordinator, who is Captain Patrick Mesmer. He's here also. But Mr. Chair and council members, this is the chair of the Citizens Review Board, Mr. Akil. Our current vice chair is Colonel Reyes, and Carlos Valdez is also a member of the Citizens Review Board. And they're ready to present the 2021 annual report. And that report is required according to Code Section 18-8, subsection I-2.
Good
Mr.
morning.
Teal, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair and City Council. I am Rashid Akil, Acting Chair of the Citizen Review Board. I'm here today on behalf of the CRB to present the 2021 Annual Report, supported by the new adopted ordinance 18-8, which I believe you all receive a copy of that annual report. If you will, we will continue with the PowerPoint presentation acknowledging some of the key components of the CRB during the year of 2021. Under here, Section 1, the Citizen Review Board of the Tampa Police Department was created by the Tampa City Ordinance, Section 18-8. The purpose of the CRB Board is a group selected unbiased members of the community for the purpose of fostering transparency, supporting effective policy, policing and police reform, to enhance communication while educating the public regarding the operations of the TPD, protecting civil rights and liberties, managing risk and establishing greater confidence in the department, and ensuring a relationship of trust and respect between the department and the community by creating an unbiased panel of citizens to review cases and issues related to law enforcement that are importance or of interest to the community and the city, to increase and demonstrate police accountability, credibility with the public. Our Citizen Review Board consists of 11 voting members, 5 appointed by the mayor, 5 appointed by City Council, and 1 mayor appointed by the National Association of Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP. Here I have present our vice chair, as well as one of our voting members, Mr. Valdez, and also Colonel Reyes. Here in Section 2, there were 9 meetings conducted during the year of 2021. The board reviewed 11 closed internal affairs investigations that examined a total of 40 alleged policy violations. The most frequently addressed violation was the standard of conduct. Just continue, and Dr. Collins represented the CRB during the hiring panel. Now, in reference to the police hiring panel, there is a list of all signed members of the CRB. We're using that list to determine which member would be next to participate in the Tampa Police Department hiring process. Once all the members have participated, then we will open up for discussion, which may lead to future recommendations. Additional topics of discussion during the 2021 meetings was the update on the mayor's task force on policing, new crisis intervention response team, quality assurance report, and also the crime-free multi-housing program. Continuing with Section 3, during the 2021, the Tampa Police Department received a total of 241 citizen complaints. Citizens may now send their complaints to the CRB via email. We're currently receiving our monthly tracking log on reference to complaints as well. Continuing with Section 4, CRB can make one of the following recommendations. We can concur with the proposed determination of the disposition of the complaint and the discipline. The CRB does not concur with the disposition of the complaint and the discipline, as well as the CRB is unable to reach a decision, in which case thou shalt state will specify the reason thereto. Of the 11 cases reviewed by the CRB, the board concurred with the proposed determination of disposition and the discipline in 10 out of the 11 cases. The CRB did not make any specific recommendations to the department, mayor, or chief of police during the year of 2021. The CRB reviewed the department's body-worn camera policy and had no recommendations at that moment. Continuing with Section 6, members of the Tampa City Council should attend at least one CRB meeting. I believe Councilman Goulds and Councilman Centro attended in June of 2021 of that meeting. New provisions of the ordinance requires the CRB to conduct 4 community-wide meetings in each single-member council district. And I believe during our last meeting, we identified 4 of those locations, with the exception of District 5, being that we conduct our meeting in City Hall, which sits in District 5. So of the other 4 districts, I believe we do have a location, and we will TBA in reference to time according to availability. Section 7, the CRB revised the agenda format to monitor cases. That revision came to a follow-up from our public comment section. There was members of the board who wished to respond and interact versus public comment, so we advised the agenda to fit accordingly. And staff can provide updates to the board. That would conclude my presentation in reference to the 2021 annual report.
Councilman Goode.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good to see you. Only question I had at this time, when we talked about Section 2, you talking about the hiring process. As Ms. Collins kind of stated how that's been going or what the process is at this time, but then you stated that you're going to go through each one of the members, which will be 11 members, and then make a final conclusion. So right now, she's the only one that's been through the process?
That's correct. We decided to hold our comments and statements until each one of the members had the opportunity to participate, to ensure that there were no leading or open discussion where one could not comment. So she has been the only one to complete that process up to this point, but we do have a current list of other members that should be joining that hiring process. And I believe it's on a quarter system as well, so.
A quarter system? So is that 1 or 2 people doing that quarter? We're talking about 11 people, so we're talking about a system that's gonna take a while for everyone to be able to be a part of the process. If you're saying this is gonna be a part of your process to get the final result of if the process of the hiring process is working for the police department.
That's correct.
So I would have some concerns if we're saying one person is going a quarter and we're saying it's a yearly report. So that means we would never get to everybody being a part of the process.
Well, in reference to the new ordinance, it was presented where one member participate in that hiring process at a time. So again, we're operating under that new ordinance and abiding so. Unfortunately, yes, I do see a challenge in reference to the quarterly. That's something that we maybe look back at and we'll discuss with members and see if we can orchestrate something a little bit better to ensure that we get the results in the necessary time frame and be able to come up with other recommendations.
And the reason I asked it because you brought that out saying you want everybody to do that, but I don't see how you logistically how you could do that. So maybe that's something that your board need to discuss. Maybe 1 or 2. I mean, and that may help along because there's no way you can be able to get what you're trying to accomplish in that you're trying to give me a report back to say this is what we believe is good, this is what we believe is bad. So maybe that might be a discussion, and maybe this council may have a discussion about it too. That's what the goal was, or that's what your recommendation that your board voted on to do. So I think it's something we need to look at. If that's the case. I don't mind that. I think it's a great idea, but I think you're going to need a little bit more than 1 or 2, one to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish to get us what you're trying to do. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Councilman Carlson.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
And maybe this is too recent, but was the CRB asked for their advice on whether the police should have a mute button on the body worn cameras? And have you all talked about that issue at all? I saw you have these other topics that you talked about. Have you all discussed that issue?
We did have a recent presentation in reference to the new button. There was some discussion. At this point, there wasn't any additional recommendation to see how that feature is actually going to play out. It did get a great response from the board, and we'll see how that new technology button works.
Yeah, it seems like in the community people are on all sides are looking at pros and cons. So if you all have any feedback on it in the future, please let us know. And the second thing was that you mentioned crime-free multi-housing. The new version which City Council helped negotiate is called SAVE, and it takes out a lot of the more racist policies. But have you all was the CRB made aware that the Justice Department was investigating the city starting in December, or did you all find out with us on Friday?
I can't speak in reference to the entire board, but
But as a board, nobody presented to you all.
We haven't received any notification or any presentation as a board.
Yeah, if you all, I don't know that it'd be appropriate for you all to have any feedback, but if you have any feedback individually or as a group on that investigation, please let us know. It just bothers me, and I think a lot of people in the community, because it's the second Justice Department investigation in 7 years. So, and we know anecdotally there's a lot of concern in the community about civil rights abuses. So, and that's not just so everybody knows, it's not a rank and file police issue. It's a policy issue. Somebody created a policy to do this, and the hardworking men and women of the police department are following orders. But the question is, what should the policies be going forward, and how should we address this? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilman Maniscalco.
I saw there that 2 council members had more recently attended the meetings. Yes, right there. I haven't been to a meeting since before COVID, and of course, everything changed. But I will be, now that we're back in person and whatnot. You'll see me at the meetings. I was watching everything in the back in my office, and I have the report here. So I appreciate the information, and thank you for being here, and thank you for serving on the board. I know it's not easy, so we certainly appreciate you.
Quite well.
Councilman Fiera.
Thank you very much, and I want to echo what everyone has said, most recently Councilman Maniscalco, and thank you for serving on this board. We if you look at the list of people who are serving here, we really have some of our most distinguished people in our city from different walks of life serving on this board, and it really helps breathe, I think, a level of confidence in the board in terms of the quality of the people who are there, who come from many, many different walks of life and bring so much experience there. So, Councilman Carlson mentioned the issue of the body cameras and mute buttons on there. I guess I'll be following up on that. I hadn't heard much on that, so that's just something of interest and whatnot. And I also am due, as they say, due for a checkup. Well, I'm due to go to y'all's meeting. I don't think I've been in about a year and a half, so I am due as well. So you will be seeing me there because I'm due for a checkup. But I also, again, just wanted to thank you all for all your service on that, because I know it's very difficult. Remember, the last meeting I went to must have been mid-2020, and y'all carry a heavy agenda and a big duty. So I just wanted to thank you guys for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Would you like to introduce the board members that are with you?
Yes, on my right here is Colonel Reyes, who's also the acting vice chair of the Citizen Review Board, and also our voting member, Mr. Carlos Valdez. You will.
Congratulations, gentlemen. Please, Colonel.
Councilman, thank you for this opportunity. I'm very humbled and honored to have been appointed and to serve this great city.
Good morning, Council. As this new year approaches, we're looking at also working with the community and providing more community engagement so we can meet the community, have their buy-in and their opinions counted in all the matters that we review. So we're looking forward to our meetings that we'll be holding in the different districts, so looking forward to that as well, as that's coming down the pipeline. And we also want to work with the PR or marketing team in the city so that we can promote the meetings, so that we can get as many attendees attend the meetings out in the community. So looking forward to that, and just be on the lookout for those scheduled meetings.
We'll hear from our city attorney.
Thank you. Kamaria Pettis-Malcolm from the City Attorney's Office. Thank you for allowing the board to present the 2021 annual report. I will be, as stated from Mr. Valdez, I will be coordinating with the legislative aides to get the community meetings scheduled, and I've already initiated that process, so you'll be hearing about that more soon, about the dates for the community meetings. Also, according to Code Section 18-8, subsection I-2, I'm presenting to Mr. Shelby the certification that each council member must sign regarding the presentation of the annual report. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Mr. Akil, if no other council member has any, it was my hopes that this board would grow organically, and it has. I was also hoping that you would give the city council members here a list of different items that you may think you may need, you may want to help better your board meetings, to help better your ideas and thoughts about your board. Do you have any of those items listed? Would you like to present any of those items in the future?
That'd be great. We can list those things in the future. Being that we're under this new ordinance, I would prefer to use the tools given to see how that works out before making any additional adjustments. We're still getting acclimated to the new system, so I would like for it to kind of do process, and then at that moment, if there's changes need to be made, I'll be more than happy to give a recommendation.
Please let us know. Again, thank your board members. As Councilman Vieira stated, there are a lot of good people on your board. Tell them we said thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your patience. We will now have public comment.
Good morning and thank you. Bob Whitmore, Executive Director of City Tree, organizer of the GoFundMe to defend Dingfelder. In the interest of full disclosure, political cartoonist for the creative loafing, I look forward to drawing you soon. When I started the GoFundMe for John Dingfelder, I did it with one goal in mind: to help John and his family recover financially from a fight they should never have fought alone. In short, the Dingfelder Defense Fund at GoFundMe is intended to help John pay legal bills incurred while defending himself from an attack by developers intent on removing him from office. But as time went on, Defend Dingfelder at GoFundMe became about more than just money. It became a place where citizens and friends could leave John and Lynn words of support, a place where people could defend John's character and celebrate his accomplishments with comments like this: John Dingfelder did not use his office for personal gain. He was not found guilty by any court. He tried to serve the people, not the profiteers, so he was harassed out of office. If those who filed suit against him were so sure allegations could bear public scrutiny, they would not have insisted on a gag order. And this one from an old friend of John's: I donated because John is one of the most ethical people I know. I've known John since I was first stepped on the campus of the University of Florida in 1974. I can't think of a better person or human being than John. And finally, this one accompanied by a $5 donation. We elected John because for decades he's proven his support for our environment and needs for all, including poor people in the area of Sulphur Springs. Using money and narrow interests to bully our chosen spokesman is an attack on our community as a whole and ignores our values. What happened to John Dingfelder should have never happened, and God willing, it'll never happen again. There's an agenda item you will address today that is the beginning of an attempt to protect our elected officials from the deep pockets and sinister attacks that force a good and incredibly competent man off the city council. These items are tribute to John in recognition that what happened to John is wrong and should never have happened. I hope you think about John. You look at that empty seat. When you get this opportunity to defend yourselves from the vile and wicked forces who set themselves against our fragile democracy for personal profit and gain. I will end by again drawing your attention to that empty chair. We lost an incredibly competent and effective councilman when John was forced out of his seat. It was an attack on the city we cannot let stand. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And 'tis not. Tampa, Florida. The fact of the matter is we need a John Dingfelder, Connie Burton, mayoral candidate position to represent this city. We see how this city operates today when somebody is absent, been absent 2 or 4 occasions, and get an elected position. When somebody who is present and who have been here didn't get that position. But the fact of the matter is, who are the Christians in the photograph standing behind Julius Caesar supporting the prosecution of so-called Christian heretics? Who are the Protestants in the photograph standing behind Pope Paul III in 1534 at the official start of the Protestant Reformation? Who are the environmentalists standing in the photographs behind the capitalist oil, gas, and tech giants that have been destroying the environment since the so-called Industrial Revolution? Who are the indigenous Indians in the photograph standing behind every United States president from George Washington to Joseph Biden supporting the theft of Native American land? Who are the Africans standing in the photograph behind General Robert E. Lee and President Jefferson Davis supporting white ownership of African people? Who are the Africans in the photograph behind Leopold II, or King of the Belgians, supporting limb amputation and genocides of tens of millions of native Congolese Africans? Who are the Jews in the photograph standing behind Adolf Hitler and Heinrich, supporting concentration camps and the Nazification of Europe? Who are the Japanese in the photograph standing behind Theodore Roosevelt, supporting Japanese internment camps? Who are the Africans in the photograph standing behind the United States president, supporting the war on drugs, the war on crime, gentrification, segregation, integration, international white power, national white power, local white power, over all other people's resources, ingenuity, and collective self-determination? Who are the Ukrainians in the photograph standing behind Vladimir Putin, supporting Ukrainian gentrification or the war in Ukraine? Who were the Africans in the photograph standing behind Tampa Mayor Jane Castor on Friday, April 29th, 2022, as the mayor explained the benefits of bicycle stops, black hatred, crime-free apartments, and other programs that discriminatorily and adversely affect African people in this city? Those were the same people standing behind Julius Caesar, Adolf Hitler, Pope Paul III, King Leopold, Jefferson Davis, General Robert E. Lee, Nixon, war on crime, war on drugs, Ronald Reagan, say no to drugs, Donald Trump, immigration, migration policies. They are the traitors of the world. They are the scum of their race. They're the kind that will sell their personal souls for financial reward. We real Africans and real people in general have to expose those traitors to the world in real time and discontinue the practice of giving them a pass to allow them to connect with white power to the detriment of the existence of African and African people. We are 26% of this population. And if you look right downstairs, there's a photograph in the city building that depicts no Africans on it. That need to come down. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Barbara Van Aersdale. I've been here a few times before. Today is my year anniversary in Tampa. I'm very happy to be here. I love Tampa. I also need affordable housing in Tampa, which I've not been able to find. I'm dumbfounded at the Tampa Housing Authority and how nobody will make an appointment to see me or talk to me, even though I'm on their wait list. I did the application process at the Mary Bethune building when I moved here. That was back in August. They took a check from me that day. I don't know who it was, but by about 4:30 afternoon, they gave me my check back and said I didn't qualify for the West River Development Fund for whatever reason, but I could be waitlisted on the Housing Authority for wherever to get an affordable place to live. Well, it's been a whole year now. I haven't found any place to move to. I'm living in a desperate situation where I almost got killed 2 days ago, falling off my porch. My life was this close to in my hands again. A week and a half ago, I went to Social Security. I fell on the concrete in front of the disability office with a hole in the sidewalk. I had a friend take me there that day. The paramedics came and picked me up. That was Good Friday. I went back home. I bed rested till I came to the meeting the next week on Friday morning to plead with you. Please get me into Tampa housing. Mary Bethune building has openings, vacancies. Nobody is moving in. Nobody is transparent. The clubhouse, their rec rooms, their medical center, all these things that money has been filtered into is not being used. They're locked up. The restrooms are locked up. People are living there that shouldn't be there, and I deserve it. My grandfather, my parents, my ancestors came to America, and John Van Aersdale raised the American flag in New Amsterdam Harbor when the British sailed out of America, and we settled here, and we're proud Americans. And I want to die in Tampa. I fought 36 years to move from Fort Lauderdale to get up here and retire. And God bless us, because we're in a state where nobody is helping each other the way it should be. Kindness comes from helping the person next to you. Then the next person helps that person, and it's a chain reaction. It doesn't cost a thing. I worked in New York City, I've worked in Beverly Hills, I've worked in Fort Lauderdale. I'm not working in Tampa, I'm trying to make it better. Thank you for listening to me today.
Thank you.
I need to get home.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the City Council. My name is Sean Wilson. I live at 3714 West Roland Street. I'm the president of the Bon Air Neighborhood Association, which is a lovely, very small neighborhood. We invite you to dine there and go to CVS and cut through, because that's what everybody else does. We know it happens, but we're really proud of our little neighborhood, which is rapidly redeveloping. However, today I am here in my capacity as the president of Blue Sky Communities, with offices at 5300 West Cypress. Blue Sky Communities is an affordable housing developer. We're getting ready to celebrate our 10-year anniversary. We have rapidly become one of the most active affordable housing developers in the state of Florida. And we can't do it alone. And so I want to thank the city for a small local match contribution that the city made last summer to a development that we're proposing on Nebraska in Councilman Vieira's district. That local match leveraged our ability to apply for about $20 million of federal funding through the 9% tax credits program. And we are proceeding through some complicated permitting, complicated funding structures, and we're doing that with the continued assistance of the city. And so today I want to express appreciation to Abby Feely and Kayon Henderson in their respective departments. Again, we have some complicated permitting with DOT and some complicated funding issues that we're resolving, but we're proceeding. And if all goes as planned, and in several months, Blue Sky Communities will be starting construction on our first affordable housing development in the city of Tampa. And it's called the Adderley. I know there's something else called the Adderley, so we may have to change our name. It's called the Adderley. I'm noticing the clock didn't start, and I'm going to try to keep my time short. The Adderley is 128 units. It's apartments. It's a 5-story building on Nebraska, just north of Bush. And it is geared towards families earning 60% AMI or less, although we have some units at 30% AMI, and we have a few units at 80% AMI. Other than that, all of the units will be at 60% AMI. It will be affordable for 50 years, so that's 600 months. So the city's funding is certainly being stretched a long way. And again, I do thank the elected officials and the staff for working with Blue Sky Communities on the Adderley, and I will continue to keep you all updated as we get closer. Thank you very much, Council.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Good?
Let me thank you. I sit on the AI board for the county, and I can tell you that Blue Sky's been doing a lot of work with affordable housing. The development out there in the county that you guys have done on Broadway, I mean, I've passed there a lot of times. I mean, it looks very nice. And I'm glad that you're a developer who understands the need of the communities, especially when you talk about affordable housing. So very supportive of your organization, because I see the work that you're putting in and you're doing a great job. And I'm glad that you're starting to move into the city now, because everyone is in the city, so we need more affordable housing. So I'm glad you talked about the percentages so people can understand there is somebody, a developer out there who's willing to really work with the people. So again, thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Councilman Vieira.
Thank you very much, and I wanted to echo what Councilman Good said. I just salute you for all your work. You guys do a great job in making sure that people that live paycheck to paycheck and get up and work hard every day can afford a house. I mean, today I didn't get to read the Times as well as I usually do, but I think I saw if I read it correctly, that the average rent now in Tampa Bay is about $2,000, which is remarkable. I mean, that's $24,000 a year. You earn $75,000 for a household. That's a third of your gross income before taxes and everything else. So we really need organizations and entities like yours that make just a basic human right housing accessible to more and more people. So just thank you for all your work.
Thank you very much.
Councilman Moreno.
Again, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Wilson. 128 units, it might be a drop in the bucket, but it's 128, 100% of it is going to someone who needs and looking for housing. So you're 100% of the 100%. I want to congratulate you and your organization for that.
Thank you very much. I mean, I would only add that it's really Blue Sky's goal to help local governments achieve their goals in the area of affordable housing. And we also like to bring a lot of bang for the buck. We've got a local architect, BDG Architects. We have a local City of Tampa certified MBE firm doing the civil engineering, High Point Engineering. So really trying to make it a big community effort. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Connie Burton, chairperson of the NAACP. And I don't normally say that, but I think it's important this morning because what I've witnessed this morning is that although I hear Trumpism a lot on national TV, I'm looking at Castroism here in this city of Tampa. And I see why Councilman Carson could never be the chair because he's willing to tote the water for the people. And the issues that are being brought up, even with what the CRB had no recommendations, and you got a federal investigation dealing with issues that have direct impact on brown and black people. No recommendations. No recommendations, no conversation about coming into the heart of the black community to talk to our people, in opposed to they can come down to the city council chamber because this is part of District 5. So unacceptable. But what brings me here this morning as we talk about housing continuously, right at the Madison on 37th, where they just built this wonderful development, inside the NAACP office, people are coming in constantly complaining. Citizen elderly people that receive $1,400 a month, total income, rent has escalated to over $1,000. Over $1,000, that's something that has been marketed as helping low-income people. Last week, we talked about Silver Oaks, ongoing issues, feces, mold, rats in the middle of this city. Black children trying to cope, trying to learn in that environment, and they can't do it. But we are thankful that Congressman Marco Rubio wrote a letter to HUD, and I'm gonna leave it for you, so maybe you can scratch out something from this letter, and this council will have some courage to say to HUD, take care of the issue. That it's not right for people to have to live in deplorable condition, even if it means other funding sources are questioned. Lastly, what are we gonna do with our children? We're tired of them picking up paper. We want them to have real summer opportunity. But before they can even have a summer job, I'm looking at where could my granddaughter go and have some light gymnastic activity. And I know you, Councilman Gould, talking about building over in the Fair Oaks. There is nothing for our children to do over the summer. Nothing. When I look at what's happening in the North Tampa, gymnastics, hip-hop dancing, anything they want to do is there for them. The crisis is now for this council to deal with the disparities that we have in this city and find a way to have real inclusion. And lastly, if I don't know how to write a letter to the feds, I'm going to learn. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burton.
Yes.
Councilman Good.
Ms. Burton, I'm very familiar. I was over at the Madison 2 months ago. I was invited by the residents. I didn't hear about, you said there's a rent increase over $1,000 now?
I'm going to leave you the copies, if I can.
Can you get that for me, Ms. Michelle? And I'm going to make sure that I make a call to Mr. McCray, because that is a very senior place, and that's surprising that that has happened. I will look into that.
Thank you.
Move to receive and file the letter.
So moved. Is there a second?
Motion made by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Let the record reflect the motion passed unanimously.
Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
Congratulations. My name is Eddie Adams Jr., and I am here to recommend to you that all of you read a book by Wayne Perriman called Unfounded Loyalty, which talks about black folks' loyalty to the Democratic Party. At this point in time, the President of the United States is a Democrat, the House is Democratic, the Senate is Democratic, and for some reason or another, black folks' voting rights expire. The women's got the right to vote. It didn't have an expiration date, but black folks had an expiration date, and they keep expiring. and all they gotta do is have a meeting one day and say, well, okay, we're gonna make this the law of the land, and we got it forever. What I'm talking to you about gets to the point that all of you guys are Democrats. 24% of your constituents here in the city of Tampa is black. Black folks pay taxes. We don't have a choice. You take taxes out of our money. But, and I'm gonna ask the council, the chairman, if you could, at some point, I'm available, find out how much of the city's annual budget is returned to the community by the city of Tampa doing business with black businesses. Because I don't know, it's not an answer anymore. It's not appropriate for this period of time, because I gave you guys a couple of weeks ago when I came how a multi-billion-dollar local business does money, returns money to the black community, and they're accountable for it. If you guys don't know, then you don't see it as a problem. And if you don't see it as a problem, you're not gonna do anything to rectify or correct it. So first of all, if you say to us it's 2% or it's less than 2%, and you see for yourself how shameful that is for the city of Tampa to only spend, unless they got another way for you guys to return money to the black community. And I'm not talking about minorities, because there's a lot of ways that minority thing happen, and we still don't get any money back from the city or other institutions, because white women is considered to be a minority. So you can give all the business to white women and then say, well, we did business with minority. Well, that's not my concern. My concern is how you return money to the black community, because with a maybe not $2 billion, but close to $2 billion budget, I would like for you to see how much money is returned to a community that's paying 24% of the taxes to the city of Tampa. So, and I've learned from the meeting last week, if I point that to the chairman or point it to a member of city council, maybe I may get a reply back. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Next, please.
Well, good morning, councilmen. My name is, City of Tampa councilman. My name is Irma Celestine, and I live at 812 West Columbus Drive. For more than, I would say 18 years, I've been having problem with the foundation of my home. And to be honest, I could have sold it and keep going, but I don't think it would have been fair to the next person. Whether they have money or not, I would have addressed the issue. But I've been trying to address the issue for many years now, and I've been getting the runaround. And I would like to thank Mr. Councilman Good, who referred me to someone, which I spoke briefly, and which I'm gonna get together with her in order to resolve my problem. We live in a world that I see there is no so-called civilization. We treat each other, we all are human, and we're just passing through. There is a time that we come into this earth, and there will be a time that we must move on. Why can't we settle down, I would say? Because at any time or any point, someone, because of their ego, can exterminate each other or do harm to each other. If we would more or less realize our surrounding and do better. Because at the point now, at my age, I'm looking at, it's really sad. I don't care how much money you have, but eventually you're not gonna take it with you, and you don't even know where you go, where we all going. We heard. Just be good. Look at the whole, you see Earth, look at the whole picture. Yeah, take a good look at what's happening. You know, people are suffering, whatever is the color. Me, when I was born, I used to hear there's only 4 races. Now there's so many races. We can't even classify ourselves as being what? Because we all have in our DNA all little things in there. So anyway, thank you, Mr. Good, and I'm going to proceed, and I do expect good results from my thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
May God bless each and every one of y'all. I'm going to read some scriptures to you from the book of Romans, 13th chapter of the book of Romans. Let every soul be subject unto the higher power, for there is no power but of God. The power that are ordained of God. Whosoever therefore resists the power, resisted the audience of God. And they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. Thank God for his scripture. Thank God for the reading. I got something missing on my flyer. The people of color cannot win the respect of the oppressor or the acquisition. We merely increase the oppressor, arrogance, and contempt. The acquisition is interpreted as proof of people of color as inferior. The people of color cannot win the respect of the white people of the South or the peoples of the world. If he or she is willing to sell the future of our children for personal and immediate comfort and gain. Any real changes in the status quo depend on the continued creative action to sharpen the conscience of a nation and establish the climate in which even the most racist elements are forced to admit that change is necessary. Direct action is not a substitute for work in the court and the whole of the government. Bring about changes for a new and a broad law by a city council. Stated legislature, Congress are pleading cause before the court of the land. Do not eliminate the necessity for bringing about the mass destruction of justice in the front of the city hall. Catholic churches, there is no one teacher and the teacher of Jesus Christ. No one is greater than his master. The preacher and teacher are nothing but servants of the law. The first epistle of Paul, by the exalt of therefore. First of all, supplication, prayer, etc., and all men proclaim, and that there are authority, that we may lead quiet and peaceful life in godliness and honesty. You know, I didn't get a chance to read it all because I just want you all to know that we believers in God, we got power to try to do what's right. But people don't want to hear what's right. They want to hear what's going on. And what's going on in the world is nothing right coming from God. But one thing about us, we must submit ourselves to the almighty power and the authority of God Almighty. I thank you, City Council, and I want to ask the City Council, the lawyers, City Council, to please get me an invitation to meet with the mayor. Meet with the mayor. I'll be glad to meet with her on one-on-one.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. God bless all of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Bishop Michelle B. Patty. I'm one of the hosts of What's Really Happening, along with Mr. King Cover from King Cover Enterprises and Mr. Jay Johnson. Our radio program comes on every Saturday morning from 9 a.m. to 10. It's a public, well-listened to public forum. And I didn't come to speak this morning, but when I heard about the lack of input about jobs in the city, I just wanted to speak on behalf of Ms. Sharika Hills, the Parks Director. She was my guest just this past Saturday. She's been a guest twice. She's been getting out the word about the jobs. She's been telling not only about the jobs, but the income, that there are part-time, there are permanent jobs. We're talking about $15 an hour job. So the public is being aware on that front that there are jobs being made available for the youth for the summer. I am going to call Mr. Bennett and let him know that What's Really Happening will actually be glad to serve as a venue to continue to get the word out concerning jobs, whether they be summer or permanent jobs. But I just thought I would rise up because there are people that are making an effort to inform the community as to what's going on. And I just want to thank Ms. Hills once again over Parks and Recreation and some of the things that she informed the community about being lifeguards. This is something that African Americans don't hardly swim, but in my home where there was 8 of us, we were made to learn how to swim. And this is something that they can become they could take these certificates and they actually can go and use them other places. We hope they stay with the city when they get these certificates. But there was a lot of informative information that she had to give to this community. And she came, the program is a predominant African-American program. So she came to enlighten us, to encourage us to take these jobs, to become involved in these jobs. And these jobs, some of them even have apprenticeship where you can go forward. There was a lot of things that I learned and my audience learned from her, and she will be coming back again. And we extend that information to all of you council members. If you have something that you want to convey to the community, What's Really Happening, that comes on every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. And I thank those of you that have taken advantage of it, Councilman Carson, Citro, Maniscalco, Councilman Vieira. I'm still waiting on Mr. Miranda, but those of you that have taken advantage of it, you always brought some substance to the community, and we say thank you for that.
Thank you. And I will second your motion on Ms. Sharisha Hills being an amazing woman as department head of Parks and Recreation.
Thank you.
Y'all know I'm undercover. Joe Robinson, man. When I come down here like this, there's a lot going on. Now I'm getting back in the investigative mode. Now you got the feds down here. First of all, Cinco de Mayo. Congratulations, Joe Citro, for chair. Congratulations, Guido. You're talking about your backup quarterback, but you got Tom Brady qualities, man. So you're a good backup quarterback. So let's don't worry about that. Let's get down to the rigmarole. I can stay here for another 15 minutes and talk on items 39, 40, and 41, and 47 because they're all public hearings. But I'm going to spare you on that because y'all making me miss my electrician at my house right now. I want to say this. Those are all West Tampa issues. One of them is easement, vacation. Let's do it. Rezoning. Saul flash when I see him back there. If he's doing something, it's all good. So if we're here for something to stroke and make it happen, the Farland building, local landmark, I don't have any objection.
If I'm sorry.
Have I been sworn in?
No. The question is, are you talking about things that are set for public hearings?
I'm rolling it all in because I may not be here. But if y'all want me to stay here, now I'll stay here for 5 minutes on this one, that one, and that one. You're running my time now. Listen, I'm just making a statement, not speaking specifically to them, but if you want to know if I'm for or against, I'm for it, because it's West Tampa. Let's move on, right? So no, I'm not speaking about them. I just mentioned them.
Well, just remember, please, that this quasi-judicial proceedings.
I understand.
Okay, thank you.
I understand the rules and regulations. Now back to the CRB board. It said it was 241 complaints. How many of them was validated? I didn't see that number. It said 241 complaints, but they were not validated. What that mean?
Are they valid or not? Community meetings. I would love to have one in West Tampa, Ms. Lawyer. Now, bottom line. Now, you know, I was up here pushing Hannah Avenue, but I'm testing them. See, the feds, we test stuff. They already testing the city with housing. The FBI gonna be in here real soon, and I'm trying to hold them back. But keep running your mouth and quit doing nonsense, and it's gonna be some serious investigation, not this Department of Justice, okay? That's a slap on the wrist. I'm talking about criminal activity. Listen, Hannah Avenue, here's a problem. We sent in a request to provide services, my firm. So I do this for, you know, a living. No response. Now we're a certified black-owned business, providing professional services. And these people don't have the dignity to respond to receive the email and told me anything about it. Now I'm not gonna play that game. I'm not gonna play that game on Hannah. I waited to the end. But if y'all wanna play hardball, we're gonna play hardball. We're gonna find out what white women get most of the contracts in the city of Tampa and they're overutilized. We're gonna find out where black prime contractors are not getting any opportunities and there are the disparate impact. We're gonna ask for the disparity study to be done. And we're gonna clean up a lot of this public corruption. Now I'm gonna go back and walk home because I walked down. I wasn't even gonna speak. But I'm not gonna play those games. You better tell Hannah and the administration to get on the ball and respond to black folks when we ask them for opportunities on a project that's $100 million. And I'm gonna leave it at that. Hasta luego, después de todos, Charlie.
Hasta luego.
Sorry.
Is there any other public comments here in our chambers? If not, we will go into those that are on the internet. We have Mr. Randolph. Are you with us, Mr. Randolph?
Michael Randolph on the line? Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Yeah, my name is Michael Randolph. I'm with the West Tampa CDC. Congratulations to the new appointed chairpersons. Here today to talk about an update on the home-based and e-commerce business initiative. It's a national initiative now because people from around the country is looking at what we're doing in West Tampa. So this is some update. We committed to 120 new businesses started within 5 years. Starting May 15th, we plan to start working with businesses in West Tampa to get started. And here's the breakdown. For the first year, we'll be bringing in 15 businesses. For year 2, will be 25. Year 3 is 35. Year 4 is 40. And year 5 is 5. That's a total of 100 new businesses started in West Tampa. Specifically to those individuals that are having struggle in paying the rent, you can do a side hustle by creating your own home-based business to add in money so you can pay those bills. We also made a commitment of $80 million. When we do something like that, we're strategic. We already know where the money is coming from. For the first $800,000 is coming from community development funds, which is $800,000. This money is going to be used to buy a building to do an e-commerce center, as well as to provide money for microloans for businesses. The next amount of money is coming from Health and Human Service and HUD. That's going to be $15 million. Then the next part of money is coming from the CRA banks. We're meeting today or this week with the Office of Currency and Control on the federal level. As you know, they control the CRA. They talk about our strategy and to bring in the federal government with federal money. And then finally, the last remaining money is coming from grants. Right now, that's over 110 foundations that give money all over the country. We plan to train 10 residents in West Tampa on how to write a grant. Next, the community benefit agreement that's being proposed by the City Council. Please use it to reduce gentrification and increase affordable housing. Ma'am, I know I'm pronouncing her name wrong, Ma'am Bariovi, excuse me for pronouncing your name wrong, but she showed what could be done. She saw a housing crisis in West Tampa. She partnered with the West Tampa CDC to partner with developers in order to make sure gentrification and affordable housing is something that's affordable to everybody. Out of that deal came one, an employment center, in which developers agreed to build an employment center in order to help people to get jobs to stay in the community. The other part of that deal was $650,000 going toward affordable housing so people could afford to pay closing costs. This is the formula you should use with the community benefit agreement. It should be used to A, deal with gentrification, and B, deal with affordable housing. While I know parks are pretty and all those other things are pretty, we're in a houses crisis now. And the only way we can be successful is looking at new money by public and private sector.
Thank you,
you
Mr.
very much.
Randolph.
Congratulations to the new board, the new members.
Thank you, Mr. Randolph. Is Ms. Bennett there?
Caroline Bennett, are you on the line? Please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Good morning. My name is Caroline Bennett. I'm a lifelong resident of Tampa. The new opinion by the State Ethics Committee makes it impossible for council members to work in anything related to real estate or construction or land use. Those restrictions eliminate a lot of people from running for city council because people can't afford to work only as a council member. Because the city council member's job is full-time work for part-time pay. That must change. It is time to recognize that the job of city council is not the same as it was 30 years ago. The population and the workload is not the same as it was 30 years ago. The citizens of this city want an independent city council that is part of a system of checks and balances. I would never want your job, even if it were full-time and paid twice as much. You'd have to pay off the student loans of my son and my nieces to get me to take that job. And believe me, the city does not have that kind of money. The citizens of this city want council members who can give us your full attention and have the time and freedom to treat us in this city like the full-time job it is. If someone with deep pockets and financial motives threatens our elected officials because they did their job, because they listened to the citizens, because they represented us, if pro-citizen, pro-neighborhood, pro-safety council members are attacked for doing the job they were elected to do, the citizens want the city to defend that person. Because in reality, the city is defending us and the citizens' right to a voice and the citizens' right to a vote and the citizens' right to a seat at the table. If the city doesn't defend and protect city council, who will run for these positions? We all know the answer to that question. It will be yes men and yes women who will do as they are told by the rich and the powerful. It will be the people who aren't afraid of being sued because they are the mouthpieces of the people doing the suing. Independent, courageous men and women who care about what's best for Tampa citizens will not run for city council because they can't risk financial ruin from lawsuits. We want our council members to feel safe to vote the way their conscience and their constituents want them to vote, without fear of financially devastating lawsuits. So when you get to items number 64 and 65, please take action to protect our elected officials. Take action to protect the voices of the citizens of Tampa. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bennett. Ms. Pointer, are you with us?
Stephanie Pointer, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Number 64 and 65, you know, during quasi-judicial hearings, I have heard repeatedly, many times, the people who are sitting in the seats on the diocese be concerned about getting sued for making the wrong decisions in QJ. It very much disconcerts me that they not only are being sued for those decisions, but the decisions that they make in any prospect that they do at city council. So number 64 and 65 absolutely need to be passed this morning. You guys need the staff to do the jobs. We had a budget committee meeting yesterday. We have no secretary to take the minutes for the budget committee meeting. It should not be put on the 8 staff members that you currently have. You guys need the additional staff. Once again, I showed you guys the numbers last week. Our population is up by 25 to 30%. The city budget is up by 275%, but yet city council is still running with their 2000 Toyota Camry. I would like to point out, thank you, Councilman Carlson, I was flabbergasted that the CRB had no knowledge that the DOJ is investigating in our city. That floors me. What about transparency? Transparency, transparency, transparency. But it seems to be we're only transparent about other people's business. I'm very disgusted at the fact that we sat in front of the ethics committee a couple weeks ago and they said they hadn't had an ethics complaint in 4 years. Yet they spent $100,000 investigating Councilman Goods. Yet they're in the process of spending more of our city dollars, our tax dollars, not their money out of their own pocket, but they're investigating Councilman Dingfelder. So how many times do these guys get to spend six figures that we could be furnishing for affordable housing? We could be building sidewalks, but yet we're playing games with other people's lives. Please stand up for yourselves. Please give yourselves a bigger staff when you do this charter review. I appreciate all of your hard work for our city, but it's time to ask for what our citizens deserve, which is a standalone city council that can do its job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Councilman Goods.
I'm hoping, Ms. Pointer made a point. Mr. Chairman, I'm hoping that you're going to talk about in a new business, the budget committee that needs to be discussed. I'm getting several complaints. You have council members who have appointed people at times are not showing these meetings. And I know there's some issues that are going on because this board is supposed to be on the sunshine, my understanding. And it has not been that way since its inception. And with the new chairman, I hope that you get a new chairman and now get some guidelines in place so this board can operate the way it's supposed to operate for this council. So hopefully you'll be dealing with that doing a new business.
Ms. Sturmeyer. Ms. Sturmeyer, are you with us?
If you're on the line, could you please unmute yourself?
Thank you. Hello, y'all. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay. My name is Jean Sturmeyer. I've been a resident of Tampa since 1970. I grew up in town and country with a very large family, and we were pretty dirt poor. But we were taught to work hard. We were taught ethics. We were taught good moral teachings. Everybody's talking about affordable housing. Sorry about that. Affordable housing. And I can tell you that when I was 15 years old, I lived on my own. I moved out of my parents' house and I got my first apartment. My first my first paycheck went to rent. My second paycheck went to electricity and phone. I did not go out but once a week. Or once every paycheck. That was my gift to myself, to go out to dinner. So I didn't ask anybody to give me anything. I didn't ask for anything from any governmental entity. I just lived within my means. I made it was $3.35 an hour, I believe, at the time. So I also worked full-time and paid for my own college. And I also worked full-time to graduate high school from Lato in 1986. I work hard. And I believe work ethic is key to teaching our young people what to do and how to be. We spent the Parks and Recs department, my entire family, all 8 of us, we spent our summers at the Parks and Recs. We played box hockey, we played soccer, we played on the monkey bars, we played chess and checkers, and we learned how to play with other people and how to be honest and lose gracefully. We didn't accuse somebody because we lost. So just saying that Parks and Recs is important, and I think that needs to be brought back, especially, taking you to nature's classroom, which was always a treat in the parks system. So they might, I don't know if they still do that. The city council agenda, I too am flabbergasted about this FBI investigation into our city. I just am just shocked, and that is not transparent that y'all knew about that. Not y'all, but the administration knew about that, and we, the people, did not. And there should be more of those investigations. Let's see, the jobs. I suggest young people can be, they make, if they don't want college, I paid for my own, but it's not for everybody. I was pretty bored, but we could shift them, young kids, into office jobs, filing. That's a great start. And I would, at any law firm or at any insurance company, you make very good money, you get benefits, and you get paid. And it's, and then you can go to college if you want to, while you make a paycheck. That's what I did. And, and I have my own business. I certainly don't want anything from the government, because the government giveth and the government taketh away. So you shall not eat but by the sweat of your brow. So that's what the Bible says, and that's what we live by in my family. Dingfelder thing is still a sham, and I do believe that needs to be looked into by that same FBI that's looking into the other corruption in our city. What?
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Ms. Suling, I'm sorry, you handed me a note. Did I hear Mr. Mechanic? Are there any questions from council on item 32?
Mr. Chairman, I am here. I'm sorry, I'm just here to answer any questions on these items.
I don't see any questions so far, Mr. Mechanic. Will you be available if any questions do arise later on?
Yes,
during
sir.
consent?
I am here watching the hearing. Thank you.
Do you know if that includes Mr. Garcia and Mr. Schuler that is here?
Yes, they're both here. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I mean, they're virtually here.
Okay. All right. Do you know if Mr. Garcia or Mr. Schuler wants to speak right now during public comments?
I don't believe, sir. So, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Let's go to them.
We are
just to make sure. Thank you, Mr. Mechanic. Mr. Garcia, are you there?
Mr. Garcia, please unmute yourself.
All right, Mr. Schuler, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Did you want to make any public comment to item number 32 now?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, is there anybody else in the audience here at Chambers that wants to make public comment? Okay, and that's all we have virtually. Okay, thank you. Let's go to our consent agenda items. Public Safety Committee, Councilman Miranda.
Hold on, Mr. Chairman. I didn't know I move items 6 and 7.
Second.
We have a motion made by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Roll call.
Miranda?
Yes.
Hurtak? Carlson?
Yes.
Goods?
Yes.
Vieira? Yes. Maniscalco?
Yes.
And Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Hurtak being absent.
Thank you very much. Councilman Goods, Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Committee.
Move item number 8, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made by Councilman Goods, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Roll call.
Hurtak? Carlson?
Yes.
Goods?
Yes.
Vieira?
Yes.
Citro?
Yes.
Miranda? Maniscalco?
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Hurtak being absent.
Thank you very much. Public Works Committee, Councilman Carlson.
Yes, I'd like to move items 9 through 20, please.
Motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Roll call.
Vieira?
Yes.
Goods?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Hurtak? Miranda?
Yes.
Maniscalco?
Yes.
And Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Hurtak being absent.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to just vote on number 23 separately, please. When this contract came up a couple years ago, I was not really in favor of to try to be a team player. I voted for it for the administration, I since regret that decision because of the way the process was handled, and so I'm going to vote against any other amendments related to this contract or renewals. Thank you.
Okay. You have further request, Councilman Miranda, would you like to?
Yeah, I'll hold 23 for discussion further.
So you're going to be doing 21?
21, sir, 22, and through 24, 25, and 26.
Second.
I have a motion made by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Roll call vote.
Goods,
Yes.
Vieira,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Hurtak, Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
and Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Hurtak being absent.
Councilman Miranda, 23.
Well, we want to discuss it, we'll discuss it.
Councilman Carlson, would you like to discuss item number 23?
No, I said everything. I just want to vote separately.
Okay, I move resolution number 23, sir.
Second.
I have a motion made by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Roll call vote.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Carlson,
No.
Hurtak, Miranda,
Yes.
Vieira,
Yes.
Goods, and Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried with Carlson voting no and Hurtak being absent.
Mr. Carlson, Building, Zoning, and Preservation Committee?
Yes, sir. And can I just make a comment real fast on item number 33? Appreciate that the administration is working with the Tampa Theater. You all may remember about 8 years ago, the last mayor viciously attacked Tampa Theater and almost destroyed the organization. And I hope that that this administration will work with the Tampa Theater to try to protect it in the future. We may not always have a friendly council or a friendly mayor, and so we need to make sure to protect this important institution. So with that, I will move 27 through 34, please.
Second.
A motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Roll call vote.
Yes.
Hurtak, Carlson,
Yes.
Goods, Maniscalco,
Yes.
Vieira,
Yes.
and Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Hurtak being absent.
Thank you. Excuse me, Transportation Committee, Councilman Vieira.
Yes, sir. Move item number 35.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Vieira, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Roll call vote.
Hurtak, Carlson,
Yes.
Goods, Vieira,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Miranda, and Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Hurtak being absent.
Thank you very much. Motion to open.
Move to open 36 through 55.
Motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposed? Thank you. Let's take our first public hearing, file number E2022-8CH27. Item agenda number 36. Yes, I am sorry. Anybody that's going to be giving any testimony today during these proceedings, would you please rise to be sworn in? Again, anyone giving any testimony.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give today is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, council members. Dennis Fernandez, Architecture Review and Historic Preservation Manager, here this morning to proudly bring you the recommendation of the Historic Preservation Commission to increase the inventory of historically designated properties in our city. I do have a PowerPoint to assist us. This is number 36, which is the recommendation to add the Stovall House as a local landmark to the city of Tampa. The owner, Stovall House LLC, submitted an application for local historic designation in May of 2021. The applications, as you know, for these particular requests are reviewed by the Historic Preservation Commission, and the determination of eligibility is then brought to you in the form of a recommendation. Eligible properties must meet the criteria specified in 27257, which I'll review in just a moment. Local historic designation does many things. I'm not going to go through the entire list, but it certainly preserves, promotes, and improves the historic nature of our neighborhood and brings very necessary economic incentives to these properties. The property before you, as you can see, is one of the grand state houses of the early 20th century, and these are, you know, an asset that really are quickly disappearing in our city.
See the 1931 Sanborn map with the property outlined. It's located on Bayshore Boulevard, just to the south of Coachman. You see on the aerial map a more contemporary version of the site as it's been built out. It was originally a single-family home and now serves as a private club. Interesting, if you go back one decade prior, the property actually extended from Bayshore Boulevard to what would be known as MacDill Avenue today. So it's quite a large parcel of land before it was parcel for residential development. Stovall House was constructed in 1909. It was originally constructed as the home for Logan T. and Florence M. Truesdale. They only occupied it for a short time. Then it was purchased and completed by Wallace F. Stovall. He resided in the house for 30 years, just until the conclusion of World War II. It was designed by a very renowned Tampa architect named Francis J. Kennard. Mr. Kennard also designed the Floridan Hotel and the Centro Español de Ybor City. It's designed in the neoclassic style, which is one of the prominent designs of that era, and is really typified by the defined gabled portico and the very large Corinthian columns on the entry. Mr. Stovall's most renowned association was that he founded and was a longtime publisher for the Tampa Tribune. And this is the most intact example of the impact of Mr. Stovall on the built environment. There are other buildings that have either been demolished or been altered beyond recognition. The application was, as I said, submitted in May of 2021. The HPC's recommendation came on January 11th of this year, and then the Planning Commission's determination of eligibility was February 25th. Notice has been provided to by the owner to the surrounding property owners and registered organizations, and that proof of notice has been submitted with the clerk. Under 27257, which is the criteria that the HPC uses to determine historic significance, the property did achieve its significance during the defined period of significance of 1909. Normally, these properties have to be at least 50 years old. This one's well over a century, so obviously would qualify for its age. Its association with individuals that were significant in the city's past, that of Wallace F. Stovall, is well exhibited. That's also referred to as the criterion B under the National Register of Historic Places, which this property is also listed on. And it does involve a distinctive characteristic and type and period of construction, which represents the work of a master and possesses high artistic value, otherwise regarded as criterion C under the National Register. So the main criteria that qualify it are both its architectural style and significance, as well as its relationship with Mr. Stovall. I did want to show a couple photos of the interior. As you know, the protective ordinances only apply to the exterior, but this is really an exceptional property. So I did want to just share with you some of the photos of the interior that were provided to the staff. Can you see that on your monitor?
Not yet.
Switch that there. Okay, there we go.
Yes.
Okay, this is one of the sitting rooms that's off the interior. You can see some of the details. Not sure why this is. There we go. Some of the details in this room, and as the adaptive reuse, there had to be the introduction of the fire suppression system, which was done in a very sensitive manner because it is now for occupancy. Here's an example of the stairwell, some of the detailing. The house does have the original wood windows. The previous owner, Mr. Harry Tisdale, did restore those. And here's a wonderful shot off the second floor balcony looking towards Bayshore Boulevard. Back to the PowerPoint. So the Historic Preservation Commission did hold the recommendation hearing on January 11th and did recommend to approve this application. The Planning Commission, as I did say, just did find it consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan, and the staff does recommend the Tampa City Council approve the local landmark designation of the Stovall House located at 4621 Bayshore Boulevard as a local historic landmark based on the criteria that I reviewed under 27-257. And with that, I know the owner and some of the representatives of for the property are here, if they care to add anything as well. Thank you.
Councilman Carlson.
Just wanted to ask you a question real fast. Would it be fair or accurate to say that this designation limits the rights of the owner rather than providing any new rights or entitlements? Because now with this designation, they would be limited as to what they could do with the building. It doesn't provide any new rights or entitlements, right?
Well, historic designations don't impact the zoning or use of a particular property, just the aesthetic layout of the site. But I think perhaps the representative's attorney can kind of speak to the history of this, that there was concern about the new use put in place, and local historic designation was looked at one way as a check on ensuring that the future development of the site doesn't overwhelm the historic nature of it.
Yeah, and I think, and the applicant will speak for themselves, but a lot of times when people buy a building, they don't want to be limited as to what they can do with it, so a lot of people wouldn't put this kind of designation on a building because it could limit them, but in this case, they're voluntarily doing it, right? So anyway, I'll let the applicant speak.
Any other questions? Anything you would like to add?
Yes. First of all, Truett Gardner, 400 North Ashley Drive. It's great being back here in person and great seeing each of you. I wanted to thank Dennis and his staff for all their diligence and work that they've done. And with me are Saul Flashman, renowned local architect and project architect of the Stovall House, and then also Blake Casper, who was the visionary and developer behind this. And we are here today to make good on a promise that was made 4 years ago as a part of our rezoning. And this project was always about preserving the Stovall House, and we're here today to voluntarily allow it to be designated as a local landmark. Mr. Carlson, to your question, what this does is it was actually slated for potential demolition, and what this does is gives it that local landmark status so it would be protected from that going forward. With that, I think Saul wants to say a few words, and Mr. Casper as well.
Thank you, Truett. Good morning, members of council. Saul Fleischman, Garcia Maslowski Architecture, 324 Hyde Park Avenue. As a third-generation native Tampan, historic preservation has been my passion for my 50 years of architecture practice. And it's really been an honor and a privilege to work on this great project, the Stovall House, and to help bring Blake Casper's vision to fruition. The previous owner, Harry Teasley, maintained and preserved the house very well, so we really didn't have to do much to the historic structure. Among the things we did was, as Dennis pointed out, a fire sprinkler system on both floors of the structure. We upgraded the fixtures and the finishes throughout the house, and we added a new exit door in the former dining room, which was a window within that same opening. And that exit door makes the first floor of the house completely handicap accessible. In addition, we were sensitive to the planning of the site to make sure that the historic house maintained prominence. So that said, this is a Tampa treasure, and I strongly recommend landmark designation. I'll turn it over to Blake Casper.
Thank you, Saul. And Blake Casper, owner of the Stovall House LLC. And I just want to thank the council for giving us the opportunity, the trust to take stewardship of the Stovall House and really invite, anyone that would like to see it in person. We'd love to have you, but we'd love to get this designation. I think this is the culmination of our efforts to conserve the property and conserve a piece of history for Tampa. So we're proud to be a part of it. We're proud to be able to give back in this way. And again, thank you for your trust.
Any other comments or questions? Anybody in the audience who wishes to speak to this? Motion by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda to close. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Was there anybody registered to speak? Councilman Carlson.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to move file number E2022-8, the CH27 ordinance being presented for first reading consideration ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida, designating Stovall House located at 4621 Bayshore Boulevard, Tampa, Florida, as more particularly described in Section 3 hereof as a local landmark, providing for appeal of all ordinances of conflict, providing for severability, providing effective.
We have a motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Miranda.
Yes.
Hurtak. Carlson.
Yes.
Goods.
Yes.
Vieira.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
And Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Hurtak being absent. Second reading and adoption will be held on June 2nd, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you very much. Item agenda number 37, file number E2022-8CH14.
Morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning.
City Council, Susan Johnson Velez, Senior Assistant City Attorney. Item number 37 is second reading for an ordinance that would amend section 14-153 of the code, which is a section of the noise ordinance. This ordinance, you'll recall, removes the Channel District from the list of districts where noise is measured using a decibel level standard. And the effect of this would be to have the Channel District going forward have sound measured using the plainly audible standard. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Are there any comments or any questions? Councilman Vieira.
Go on,
Vieira.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, just again, wanted to thank you for all your hard work on this. It's funny, on the noise ordinance, many of us, myself included, went back and forth on it and whatnot with just back and forth on it. And I think in the end, those of us who voted to reconsider the entire thing, again, myself included, then went and said, hey, we left our friends at Channel Side back there, and that certainly wasn't our intent. So I know that you've worked very hard on this going all the way back, and I just wanted to thank you for this. Because again, Channel Side is unique, and like I always say, somewhere in between Ybor City and Tampa Palms is Channel Side, and that's very, very true. So just wanted to thank you for all your hard work on this. Thank you.
Councilman Miranda.
Thank you, Chairman. Like Councilman Vieira just said, it's incumbent of us to do something. Certainly someone would say, oh, I don't hear any noise. Of course, if you don't have near anywhere where there's noise and bars and music, you're not going to hear much noise. But in all, it's like saying you might buy an acre in a tomato patch and you're not going to hear much, but as soon as that acre is developed, you're going to hear a lot. And it depends on what moves there. It's what's incumbent of us to try to negate some of the negative that we have throughout the city, and this is one of them. And I just want to thank the council for doing what they do in General Side and the rest of the cities for understanding what noise really is if you live there. If you live there, you're going to hear it. If you don't live there, you're not going to hear it. That's the problem. Thank you very much.
Any other comments? Is there anyone in the public that wishes to make comment?
Good morning, and congratulations, Mr. Citro and Mr. Maniscalco. I'm Larry Renderconnect. I live in Towers of Channel Side on the 22nd floor, Tower 1, above Park and Rec. I'm here. I've spoken to you a couple of times before, and I'm here to strongly endorse this second reading of the amendment. I greatly appreciate your understanding and willingness to help. It is very comforting to know that we have a concerned and involved city council focused on making our lives better and on understanding that the interests of businesses and citizenry can, on some occasions, be conflicting. I want to assure you that in the Channel District, we simply seek balance between a business's right to make the noise and our right to live without it. Park and Rec moved into our residential community, not the reverse. Having said that, as I said before, I want to strongly support your adoption of the second reading so that we can have some control of the noise being produced by Park and Rec until 1:30 to 2 a.m. as recently as Tuesday night. That can be heard and felt in our bedroom. So then and only then will we be able to get back to sleep. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Any other comments? Do we have anybody online? Thank you very much.
Move to close.
Motion made by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Goods to close. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Mr. Goods. Councilman Goods.
File number E2022-8, Ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption. An ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida, relating to the regulation of noise, making revisions of the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14, Article 3, noise, amending Section 14-153, unreasonable excessive noise from a property prohibited. Ybor City Historic District, Channel District, and the Arena District. Repealing all ordinances or parts of the ordinances in conflict with, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Motion made by Councilman Goods, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Hurtak, Carlson,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Viera,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Maniscalco, and Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Maniscalco being absent at vote and Hurtak being absent.
Thank you very much. Agenda item number 38, file number TA CPA 21-01.
Good morning, Council. This is Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff. I've been sworn in. This is second reading for TACPA 2101, a text amendment correcting a scrivener's error to reflect the text amendment language. So it is consistent with the language in Ordinance 2022-21. City Council voted to approve this amendment at your hearing on February 17th. We sent this amendment to DEO, who provided no objection. This concludes my presentation. Available for any questions.
Any questions for staff? No one is ready to speak. Any comments from the public here? Okay. Motion to close? Motion made by Councilman Miranda. Seconded by Councilman Goods. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Mr. Vieira.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Vieira.
Yes, sir. Read item. Ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption, ordinance amending ordinance number 2022-21, passed and ordained by the City Council of the City of Tampa on February 17, 2022, correcting scrivener's error by substituting a new Exhibit A for the previously approved Exhibit A to accurately reflect the text amendment language, so it is consistent with the text amendment language in ordinance number 2022-21, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Motion made by Councilman Vieira, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Carlson,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Viera,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Hurtak, Maniscalco, and Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Maniscalco being absent at vote and Hurtak being absent.
Thank you. Agenda item number 39, TA CPA 21-14.
Danny Collins again with your Planning Commission staff. I've been sworn in. This is second reading for TACPA 2114, a map amendment to recognize the sites located at 2111 North Albany Avenue under the Residential 35 future land use designation. City Council voted to approve this amendment at your hearing on April 14th. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for staff? Hearing none, motion to close?
So move.
Motion-
Wait,
I'm sorry, any public comment? I'm sorry, Mr. Mechanic, you're there.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, council members, I'm here on behalf of the applicant, and we are here simply to answer any questions. This is the companion to item 47, which was the rezoning for the property.
Any questions for the petitioner? Is there anybody else online?
Motion to close.
Second.
A motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Councilman Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move ordinance be presented for second reading and adoption. An ordinance amending the Image 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan, future land use element, future land use map for the property located at 2111 North Albany Avenue from light industrial LI in parentheses and residential 35R-35 in parentheses to residential -35 R35 in parentheses, providing for repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Is there any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Goods?
Yes.
Vieira? Miranda?
Yes.
Hurtak? Carlson?
Yes.
Maniscalco?
Yes.
And Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Vieira being absent at vote and Hurtak being absent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, council.
Agenda item number 40, file number E2022-8CH27.
Morning, council members. Dennis Fernandez, Architectural Review and Historic Preservation Manager. Staff presented you with a full presentation during first reading. I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Is there anybody in the public that would like to make a comment? Do we have anybody online?
Move to close.
We have a motion made by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Goods. All in favor?
Aye.
Councilman Maniscalco.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I have an ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption. Ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida, amending the West Tampa Multiple Properties Group to include the McFarland Building located at 1902 North Howard Avenue, Tampa, Florida, is more particularly described in Section 3 hereof as a local landmark, providing for repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Vieira? Miranda?
Yes.
Hurtak? Carlson?
Yes.
Goods?
Yes.
Maniscalco?
Yes.
And Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Vieira being absent at vote and Hurtak absent.
Thank you very much. Agenda item number 41, file number E2022-8CH27.
Once again, council members, Dennis Fernandez, Architectural Review and Historic Preservation Manager. This is another addition to the West Tampa Multiple Properties Group, and I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Any questions for staff? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make public comment? Mr. Mechanic, I believe we have you online, Mr. Garcia and Mr. Schuler.
No.
Oh, that's the wrong number for them. Okay, never mind. Thank you, three gentlemen. Is there anybody online? No one is registered. Thank you very much.
Move to close.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco to close. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Mr. Carlson, excuse me, Councilman Carlson.
Yes, sir. I'd like to move file number E2022-8CH27, ordinance being presented for second reading adoption. Ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida, amending the West Tampa Multiple Properties Group to include property listing located at 1208 North Howard Avenue, Tampa, Florida, as more particularly described in Section 3 hereof, as a local landmark, providing for repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, providing effective date.
Second.
You have a motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Miranda?
Yes.
Hurtak? Carlson?
Yes.
Goods?
Yes.
Vieira?
Yes.
Maniscalco?
Yes.
And Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Hurtak being absent.
Thank you very much. Agenda item number 42, file number REZ 20-66.
Thank you so much. Zain Hussein, Development Coordination. First, Mr. Citro Maniscalco, congratulations on your new roles. Always a pleasure working with you. Agenda item number 42, case REZ 20-66. This is being heard for second reading and adoption. Now, yesterday, the applicant requested a continuance to go to first reading on June 2nd at 5:01 p.m. This was sent yesterday to the councilman. But the project is for 5301 West Tyson Avenue from IH Industrial Heavy to PD, Planned Development Residential Multifamily, Retail Sales, Specialty Goods and Convenience Goods, Shoppers Goods, and Marina. This being requested continuance, I believe you leave it to a vote.
Okay, are you the petitioner for this?
I am.
Are you still asking for the continuance?
Yes. We would ask that you respectfully continue this or reschedule it for first reading. On June 2nd, one of the requirements that we're required to have is an access point onto the property to the west. It was discovered last week that the applicant for the rezoning on the property to the west put their access points in a location that does not align with where our access is planned to be. As a result, we've been told by the city attorney that this needs to be addressed and fixed. And in order to fix and realign our access points so that we can meet all the requirements, we need to go back to first reading. It's been determined that it's fully in compliance with the settlement and the mediation, but just requires a tweak to the site plan that cannot be done through second reading. So that's why we're requesting this.
Is there, if I may ask for, on the record, then you are with this going back into first reading because the alignment doesn't address each other, align with each other?
Yes, we would like to address it to make sure that the project is as we propose and that it works, and hopefully it will come back as a even better project.
And Mr. Chairman, if you can, Ms. Pollack, if you could just state your name for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ann Pollack, representing the applicant, 433 Central Avenue, St. Pete.
Ms. Pollack, is this the first time you've asked for a continuance on this case?
It is, I think we asked initially for a continuance from January to March. That was to, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to the continuance only? Do we have anybody online that would like to speak to the continuance only?
Jean Sturmeyer, if you're on the line, if you'd like to speak, you have 3 minutes.
Ms. Stovall, would you like to speak to the continuance only?
Yes, sure. I believe they should not get a continuance. This has been going on for years and years and years. And, you know, they haven't gotten their act together by now. I just don't think it's right for them to get a continuance. So I say no.
Ms. Strohmeyer, you need to be visible, you need to be sworn in, and we need to have your name.
Oh.
Ms. Strohmeyer, can you raise your right hand, please?
Yes. I have a glove on. Hold on. Yes.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Counsel?
So they want to continue.
Ms. Strohmeyer, please
Hi,
hold.
my name is Jean.
1 second. Counsel?
Just a reminder, Ms. Strohmeyer, this is a continuance to go back to first reading to correct a site plan alignment issue. And I don't know whether you caught that or not, but that is the purpose of the continuance. So if you have a position, you can speak to the continuance, whether you're for it or against it, and why, if that's the case.
Okay, my name is Jean Sturmeyer, and I just heard that y'all are going to, they're trying to get a continuance and go back to first reading. Actually, I think that'll give us a better opportunity to start telling the truth in this matter. So therefore, I changed my mind, and I think a continuance is a great idea going back to first reading. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Strohmeyer. Any other comments? Any other comments?
Make the motion.
I'm sorry?
I'm happy to make the motion if you want.
Thank you very much. Motion to close,
So
please.
moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Councilman Carlson.
Yes, sir, I'd like to move to continue this to what date? For first reading?
June 2nd.
To June 2nd for first reading.
Yes.
Yes.
Move to reopen.
Second.
File number 42, RC 20-66.
Motion made by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye. So I'd like to make a motion to continue this to June 2nd for first reading.
June 2nd.
Motion made by Councilman
I'm sorry, just June 2nd of 2022 at what time? 9:30 a.m.?
Yes.
5:01 p.m.
Oh, 5:01, okay.
I think it would be 5:01.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, that's right, it's
5:01.
5:01 p.m. Do you have that?
Is that good for your motion, Councilman
Yes.
Carlson? Motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Is there any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Yes.
Hurtak, Carlson.
Yes.
Goods.
Yes.
Vieira. Maniscalco.
Yes.
And Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Hurtak being
Thank you.
absent.
Thank you. Agenda item number 43, file number AB2-21-28.
Thanks so much, Zain Hussein, Development Coordination. This is being presented for second reading and adoption. This is under address 3225 South McDill Avenue. This is to correct a Scrivener's error by substituting a new Exhibit A for the previously approved Exhibit A to reflect an accurate legal description of the subject property that's consistent with the legal description on the site plan and also in ordinance number 2022-38. I'm here for any questions if needed.
Any questions for staff? Thank you. Ms. Mayor, have you been sworn in?
I have not.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Jamie Mayer, representing the applicant, 101 East Kennedy Boulevard, Suite 3700. I am here if you have any questions. I know this is second reading, but I'm available if there are any. Thank you.
Any questions for the petitioner? Are there any public comments? Do we have anyone online? Motion made by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco to close. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Councilman Goods.
File number AB2-21-28, ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption. An ordinance amending ordinance number 2022-38 passed and ordained by the City Council of the City of Tampa on February 17, 2022, correcting a Scrivener's error by substituting a new Exhibit A for the previous approved Exhibit A to reflect an accurate legal description of the subject property consistent with the legal description on the site plan and in the ordinance number 2022-38, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
We have a motion made by Councilman Goods, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Hurtak, Carlson.
Yes.
Goods.
Yes.
Vieira.
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
And Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Hurtak being absent.
Thank you very much. Item agenda number 44, file number VAC 22-08.
Samuels, Development Coordination, presenting file number VAC-22-08 for second reading and adoption. It's a vacating request to vacate the right-of-way or alleyway located south of Yukon Street, north of Seward Street, east of Seminole Avenue, and west of Interstate 275 or Central Avenue, within the plat of Irvington Heights in the City of Tampa. Staff is available if you have any questions.
Any questions for staff? Motion to close?
No, any public comment?
Oh, do we have any, I'm sorry, do we have any public comments? Is there to be registered?
Move to close?
Motion made by Councilman Maniscalco to close, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Councilman Maniscalco.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I have an ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption, an ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida, vacating, closing, discontinuing, and abandoning a right-of-way alleyway located south of Yukon Street, north of Seward Street, east of Seminole Avenue and west of Interstate 275 Central Avenue within the plat of Irvington Heights, a subdivision in the city of Tampa, Hillsborough County, Florida, is more fully described in section 1 hereof, subject to certain covenants, conditions, and restrictions, as more particularly set forth herein, providing for enforcement and penalties for violations, providing for definitions, interpretations, and repealing conflicts, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Is there any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Carlson,
Yes.
Goods, Vieira,
No.
Miranda,
Yes.
Hurtak, Maniscalco,
Yes.
and Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried with Vieira voting no, Goose being absent at vote, and Hurtak being absent.
Thank you. Item agenda number 45, file number REZ-21-94.
Thanks so much, Zain Hussein, Development Coordination. This is being presented for second reading and adoption at the location 6107 South 4th Street. Proposed rezoning from RS60 Residential Single Family to RS50 Residential Single Family. This being Euclidean, no site plan was required. I'm here for any questions.
Any questions for staff? Seeing none. Mr. Michelini.
Counsel Steve Michelini, representing the petitioner. We placed all of the pertinent information and documentation in the record, and we respectfully request your approval at second reading. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for the petitioner? Is there any public comment? Do we have anybody online?
Move to close.
Second. Motion to close by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Councilman Vieira.
Yes, sir. I move an ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption, an ordinance rezoning property in general vicinity of 6107 South 4th Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification RS60 residential single family to RS50 residential single family, providing an effective date.
We have a motion made by Councilman Vieira, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Any comments? Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Goose,
Yes.
Vieira,
Yes.
Miranda, Hurtak, Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
and Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Hurtak being absent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, counsel.
Agenda item number 46, REZ 21-46.
Thanks so much, Zain Hussein, Development Coordination. This is being presented for second reading and adoption at the locations 401 and 505 North Rome Avenue and 1517 West Gray Street. This is a proposed rezone from PD Plan Development NIG Industrial General to PD Plan Development Residential Multifamily Storefront Residential with Business Professional Office and Retail Sales and Business Professional Office and Retail Sales. Site plans were turned into the city clerk's office 2 days ago. I'm here for any questions if needed.
Any questions for staff? Do we have the petitioner?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, council members, I'm Dave Mechanic. I have been sworn, and I am here on behalf of the applicant, simply available to answer any questions and request your approval.
Do we have any questions for the petitioner? Any public comment? Is there anyone online that would like to speak to this?
Second.
Motion from Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco to close. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Councilman Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move item number 46, ordinance being presented for second reading adoption, an ordinance rezoning property in general vicinity of 401 and 505 North Rome Avenue and 1517 West Gray Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification PD Plan Development NIG Industrial General to PD Plan Development Residential Multifamily Storefront Residential with Business and Professional Offices and Retail Sales, Business Professional Office and Retail Sales, providing an effective date.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Vieira,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Hurtak, Carlson, Goods,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
and Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Carlson being absent at vote and Hurtak absent.
Thank you very much. Agenda item number 47, file number REZ 21-85.
Thank you so much, Zain Hussein. Development Coordination. This is being presented for second reading and adoption at the location 2111 North Albany Avenue. Proposed rezoning from CI Commercial Intensive, RM16 Residential Multifamily, and RS50 Residential Single Family to PD Planned Development Residential Single Family Attached and residential multifamily. Site plans were dropped off to the city clerk's office. I'm here for any questions.
Are there any questions for staff? Mr. Mechanic, are you representing the applicant?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, council members, my name is David Mechanic, here on behalf of the applicant, and we are here to answer any questions and respectfully ask for your approval on second reading. Thank you.
Any questions of the applicant? Is there anybody here for public comment on this? Do we have anybody online? Thank you.
Move to close. Second.
Motion's been to close, made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Councilman Carlson.
47, right?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to move file number REZ 21-85, ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption. An ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 2111 North Albany Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification CI Commercial Intensive, RM16 Residential Multifamily, and RS50 Residential Single Family to PD Planned Development Residential Single Family Attached and Residential Multifamily, providing an effective date.
Second.
I have a motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Miranda.
Yes.
Hurtak. Carlson.
Yes.
Goods.
Yes.
Vieira.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
And Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Hurtak being absent.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Mechanic. File number 48, file number REZ 21-99.
Thanks so much, Zain Hussein. This is being presented for second reading and adoption at the location 5242 and 5250 East Broadway Avenue. Proposed rezoning from PD Planned Development to PD Planned Development Residential, Multifamily, and Strip Shopping Center with all CI uses. Site plans were dropped off to the city clerk's office. I'm here for any questions.
Are there any questions to staff? Petitioner? Good morning.
Good morning, Travis Hills. I'm just here to answer any questions on behalf of the applicant.
Any questions to the applicant? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to make public comments on this? And we have no one virtually.
Move to close.
Second.
Motion to close by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Who did I leave off with? Councilman Goods.
File number REZ-21-99. Order to be presented for second reading and adoption. An ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 5242 and 5250 East Broadway Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification PD Planned Development to PD Planned Development Residential Multifamily and Strip Shopping Center with all CI uses, providing an effective date. Original motion to approve said ordinance on the first reading had been initiated by Carl Citro.
No.
You don't have to.
I meant, okay, all right.
You're good.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Goods, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Is there any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Hurtak. Carlson.
Yes.
Goods.
Yes.
Vieira.
Yes.
And Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Hurtak being absent.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Travis, this is gonna be from what I can see, a good project for the 6 Mile Creek area. Those old trailer parks been torn away many, many moons ago. It's empty over there. This is gonna be really something for the people over there.
Thank you, Councilman Goods. If I may, on that note, I would like to bring it to the attention of council, and you in particular, is that the owner has informed me of the fact that they have been struggling in the area with some things that have taken place with regards to crime and encampments of homeless, et cetera, and that they've kind of exhausted many of their efforts with code enforcement, law enforcement, et cetera, and they were advised to actually bring this matter before you. So I did want to speak on it at this time, just to kind of make you aware that we will be at some point coming back to see if there's some kind of effort that we can make to address these matters as we go forward, because, you know, we are the first in that area to establish some redevelopment projects, but there are others who are interested, and this is kind of becoming a bit of an obstacle.
I understand. I've driven by there and I've seen a lot of the homeless people that are going in that area because it's open. So I think once you get started this project, it'll clear that out and it'll be a good development.
Yes, it's actually happening on the right-of-ways, and so that's a particular
I'm sure
issue.
staff is listening. I'll make sure we send something over to TPD and code to see if we can make sure we look at that.
Thank you very much.
Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, I just, one recommendation, we've had similar issues in other parts of the city, and I would recommend before you guys come back before council, talk to Chief of Staff, Chief Bennett. He is, in other parts of the city, he's been able to pull together all the different departments that would handle these issues, and he's in particular sensitive to relocating homeless people. So I would check with him first. He might be able to solve it with a phone call.
Okay, we'll definitely do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 49, file number REZ 22-03.
Thanks so much, Zain Hussein. This is being presented for second reading and adoption at the location 1304 East 23rd Avenue. Proposed rezoning from PD Planned Development to PD Planned Development Residential Single Family Detached. Site plans were returned to the city clerk's office. I'm here for any questions if needed.
Any questions to staff? Seeing none, petitioner?
I'm the petitioner. Eugene Cost Summit. I live at 1220 East Cumberland Avenue in Tampa, and I'm just here to answer any questions if there are any.
Any questions, petitioner? Is there anybody in the audience who would like to make public comment? Do we have anyone online?
Move to close.
A motion made to close by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Councilman Maniscalco.
I have an ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption, an ordinance rezoning the property in the general vicinity of 1304 East 23rd Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification PD Plan Development to PD Plan Development Residential Single Family Detached, providing an effective date.
Motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Any other discussions? Roll call vote.
Hurtak, Carlson,
Yes.
Vieira,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
and Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Hurtak being absent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 50, file number REZ 22-16.
Thanks so much, Zain Hussein. This is being presented for second reading and adoption at the location 814 West Amelia Avenue. Proposed rezoning from RS60 Residential Single Family to RS50 Residential Single Family. This being Euclidean, no site plan was required. I'm here for any questions.
Questions for staff?
Good morning. I'm John LaRocca, representing the owner applicant, Murphy LaRocca Consulting Group, 101 East Kennedy Boulevard, Suite 2420. I'm only here to answer questions and respectfully request your approval today.
Any questions for the representative? Anyone in the audience would like to speak to this? Do we have anyone online?
Move to close.
Second.
Motion to close by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Councilman?
You missed it.
Councilman Miranda.
Item number 50, move an ordinance rezoning property general vicinity of 814 West Amelia Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning district classification RS 60, residential single family, to RS 50, residential single family, providing an effective date.
Second.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Miranda, that is for second reading and adoption, isn't it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion made by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Miranda,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Hurtak, Carlson,
Yes.
Vieira, Goods,
Yes.
and Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Vieira being absent at vote and Hurtak being absent.
Item number 51, file number REZ 22-21.
Thank you so much, Zain Hussein, Development Coordination. This is being presented for second reading and adoption at the location 4801 Commerce Street. Proposed rezoning from IG Industrial General and RM24 Residential Multifamily to PD, Planned Development, Retail Sales, Convenience Goods, and Gasoline. Site plans were turned into the City Clerk's office. I'm here for any questions.
Any questions to staff? Petitioner? Do we have a petitioner online?
Second. Move to close.
Motion to move to close by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Goods. All in favor?
Aye.
No.
Any opposed?
No. You didn't ask for public comment.
I thought I did. Didn't I ask for public comment?
All right, sorry.
I apologize.
You're
Is there
entitled-
any public comment?
You're entitled to one mistake during that first.
First day
meeting,
on the
Chair.
job,
Only
sorry.
one.
Anybody online?
Move to
Motion to close by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Let's see. Councilman Carlson.
Yes, sir. I'd like to move file number REZ 22-21, ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption, an ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 4801 Commerce Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning classification IG Industrial General and RM24 Residential Multifamily to PD, Planned Development, Retail Sales, Convenience Goods, and Gasoline, providing effective date.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Goods,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Hurtak, Miranda,
Yes.
Vieira, and Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Vieira being absent at vote and Hurtak absent.
Thank you very much. Agenda item number 52, file number VAC 21-15. Good morning.
Hi, Rebecca Jones, City Attorney's Office. We actually recommend that you open 52 and 53 together. They are connected and will contain the same presentation from the
They're
developer.
open, they're open.
Okay. They're both open?
Okay. And also, just to clarify, so 52 is a vacation, which you will be voting on today. 53 is an infrastructure development agreement that requires 2 public hearings. So today will be the first public hearing. The second public hearing is May 19th. So even though there was a resolution included in your package for convenience, you won't be voting on the resolution until May 19th.
Thank you.
What happened to 50?
Good morning, City Council. Ron Wigington, Legal Department. Item number 52 is a vacating application, but it's a little bit different than your normal vacating applications in that it contains a brick street removal request. But as far as the vacating itself, I'd like to remind City Council that you have broad discretion in determining whether to approve or deny the application. Part of the factors to consider in your deliberation includes whether the vacating will relieve the public from the cost of maintaining the right-of-way, whether the vacating will alleviate a public nuisance such as illegal dumping or curtail criminal activity, whether the vacating will foster redevelopment of abutting properties, and whether an abutting property owner's access will be substantially diminished or completely cut off. Mr. Ross Samons is available virtually to provide his presentation, and I'm available afterwards to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Simmons.
Yes, I'd like to ask the clerk to share my screen, please. Can council see my screen?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Ross Ammons, Development Coordination, presenting file number BAC-21-15 for first reading consideration. This is a proposed vacating request to vacate Finley Street, Walton Street, and Caesar Street lying south of Whiting Street, north of Cumberland Avenue, west of Nebraska Avenue, and east of Meridian Avenue. These right-of-ways were created per the subdivision plat of map of Finley and Caesar subdivision and is located east of downtown in the Channel District. The application was filed on August 24th of 2021. The applicant's reason for the application is to facilitate and for the reconfiguration of the improvements to the roadway and utility networks within the downtown Tampa Central Business District for the next phase of Water Street development. There are no existing code violations. The applicant again is requesting to vacate the right-of-ways of Finley, Walton, and Caesar Streets and the protected brick street of Walton and Caesar. The existing right-of-way is 66,000 square feet. The streets are all improved and in use. Walton and Caesar are brick streets. All utilize all portions of the right-of-way with the exception of T-code, people's gas easements, and conditions are noted and required for water, stormwater, wastewater, T-code, Frontier, and Spectrum. Most of the portions of the streets are currently in use, but there is some preliminary construction going on and within the area, and they are shown in the pictures in the next few slides. Here are the streets proposed to be vacated in yellow. Applicant's properties in red. The north side is East Finley and East Walton to the south, and the north and south street here is Caesar. Again, the roads to be vacated in pink. This is just showing in red the roads to be vacated within the subdivision plat. And here's a map view showing the brick streets of East Walton and South Caesar Street here. Here's an image of Finley Street looking east from Nebraska Avenue. Finley Street looking west from Nebraska Avenue, towards Nebraska Avenue, I'm sorry. Finley Street east of Caesar Street. Walton Street looking west from Nebraska Avenue, again, the brick street. Walton Street looking east towards Nebraska Avenue. Caesar Street looking south from Finley Street. Caesar Street looking north from Walton Street. Caesar Street looking south from Walton Street. Staff have no objections to the vacating request based on the responses received from reviewing agencies. If the vacating request is approved by council, easement reservations and conditions are required for water, stormwater, wastewater, TCO, Frontier, and Spectrum. Transportation design and mobility require that the bricks and granite curbing be palletized and returned to the city for use within the public right-of-way with approval of the mobility department. Also, a 5-year reverter clause is to be included in the ordinance for this vacating. Conditions for natural resources. The site is subject to compliance with Chapter 27 in regards to tree preservation and site design for any improvements placed adjacent to trees in any vacated area. Thank you.
Any questions for staff? Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, you kind of said this, but I just want to reiterate, especially for the public, that we city council, I think the city has a requirement to reuse historic bricks that are taken up, and you say that it will be repalletized and returned to the city, so it will go to the storage area where the city keeps historic bricks, and then it'll be used on other roads where the bricks are being restored, correct?
Correct. And it's my understanding if the applicant requested to use the current bricks for their future project, that would be considered by the mobility department.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Anyone in the public that would like to make a comment? I'm sorry, am I missing out? Ms. Mandel.
Julie Mandel, law firm of Gray Robinson, 401 East Jackson Street. I have not been sworn, and I don't believe my team has been sworn.
Anyone else that hasn't been sworn in?
Yes, I do, thank you. Again, Julia Mandel for the record. I'm here representing Strategic Property Partners, who is the applicant for the vacation, the Brick Street relocation, as well as the development agreement. This project is part of the third phase of development of Water Street, Tampa. I'm here with Jim Schimberg and Darren Morse, who will, Mr. Morse will give a further explanation of this infrastructure change to reconfigure the streets in the Water Street area as they have been reimagining, reconfiguring the streets in that area. And I'll ask Mr. Morse to come up to describe exactly what the project entails, and then I can sum up what it is. And I know you're getting close to lunch, so I want to be able to be respectful of your time. Thank you.
I'm going to be using the projector, so I don't know if we have to toggle to that so y'all can see. But my name is Darren Morse. I'm with Strategic Property Partners, as Julia mentioned. I'm a vice president with our master planning group, and I'm excited to be before you today and honored to share more about the future vision of the project as we look to continue the development north of the current phase. So as many of you are aware, we are nearing completion of phase 1 of Water Street, having delivered approximately over 4 million square feet of new residential, office, retail, and hospitality uses. Additionally, we've developed new roads, infrastructures, streetscapes, parks, and plazas. And all this has been with the cooperation and support of the city, the county, THEA, and the CRA teams, which we've enjoyed that working relationship and hope to continue that as the progress continues north. Hopefully, many of you have been able to come out and see the redevelopment of this area. It's been quite exciting to see the streets take shape and vibrancy start to occur in this area, and this side of downtown start to further blossom. This image on screen depicts approximately the roads that were reconfigured or upgraded as part of the Phase 1 road project. So I show this because this was the roadwork reconfiguration and infrastructure upgrades were one of the first steps to facilitate the redevelopment in this area. And I bring that up because that is what we're looking to start upon in the next phase to the north, and part of the first steps to facilitate the project advancing in the forthcoming years. So in this image, you see the existing roads, again in red, that are part of the Phase 1 project. In blue is a conceptual layout of the Phase 3 road network. The goal is to extend Water Street from its current northerly terminus at Cumberland and have it continue going north, connecting to Whiting Street. Additionally, as mentioned, we are looking to reconfigure and realign 3 new east-west connections, branching off of Water Street and connecting to Meridian Avenue. And this will help further facilitate better access between the Channel District and CBD. Additionally, in orange, I'm conceptually depicting some area improvements that THEA has planned as part of their Whiting PD&E process, and we have been coordinating with both THEA and the city in regards to the planning of these future phase roads. Specifically within Phase 3, we've divided it into 2 main phases. Today, the infrastructure development agreement that's being heard is just for Phase 3A. Down the line, we'll look to come before you to discuss Phase 3B. But the initial step is to begin with the extension of Water Street to Finley Avenue and to redevelop and reconfigure Finley and Walton Streets to connect to Meridian Avenue, creating, again, further access between the CBD and Channel District, both for cars as well as pedestrians, and then also create an urban street grid consistent with a lot of the core principles and values of the first phase of the project to promote redevelopment, sustainability, walkability, and further improve this section of the CBD. Our goal is to start this work towards the latter half of this year, likely late 3Q22. And we look forward to any questions you all may have and to being able to proceed accordingly. Julia, if there's any questions, Julia will cover some of the main terms of the agreement in case there's any details that anyone is curious to further understand.
Thank you. As you can see, with the vacation ordinance, the Brick Street provision, and with the infrastructure development agreement, it would allow for the reconfiguration of the existing street grid to a more urban design that would allow the continuing redevelopment of this area. Some of the just general terms in the agreement that ensure this will proceed forward is the work needs to be commenced within 90 days of any roadway demolition, so we won't just be sitting out there letting this just not proceed forward. Substantially complete the work within 36 months of the commencement of the street revisions, and all of the street roadway infrastructure must be complete before any certificate of occupancies can be granted. At this point, this really is just to ensure that the infrastructure is in place for any future redevelopment. But no proceeding forward with any vertical development can occur and grant of a CO until the work is done. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have on this project, and I'm very excited just to continue to see this move forward. And if I could also just add before I finish my presentation, congratulations to Mr. Citro and Mr. Maniscalco on your roles. It's always very exciting this time of year to see how things are going to proceed forward over the next year. Thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Mandel? Any questions for the representative? Councilman Carlson.
Just a quick question, legal, cut me off if I can't ask this question, but I remember a Pinnacle project from a long time ago. Does SPP now own what was Pinnacle Properties? Is it two different companies, or you all own that now?
Pinnacle Channel Side is a LLC. It's a subsidiary of Strategic Property Partners LLC. I'm not sure if it's the same Pinnacle that you're referring to, or just
different company. Is this a newer company?
We own that, and just Jim Schimberg, also from SPP. And just one other clarification is that the next phase, which Darren referenced, is what used to be the Arden Mills property, and we do own that property as well, and they'll be vacating the property by the end of this month. So that'll be the next phase. But Pinnacle is a subsidiary of SPP.
Any other comments or questions?
I just wanted to announce just one more time for the public that the second public hearing is scheduled for May 19th at 10:30 a.m.
Thank you. Anybody else, anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this? Do we have anyone online?
Move to close.
Second. Motion to close by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There's the substitute, yes, sir.
Okay.
Councilman Goods, can you read the substitute ordinance?
For number
52.
PAC-2115. Subject orders being presented, first reading consideration. An ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida, vacating, closing, discontinuing, and abandoning certain right-of-ways located south of Whiting Street, north of Cumberland Avenue, east of Nebraska Avenue, and west of Meridian Avenue, within the plat of Finley and Caesar subdivision. A subdivision in the City of Tampa, Hillsborough County, Florida, is particularly described in Section 1 hereof, subject to certain conditions and restrictions as more particularly set forth herein, providing for enforcement and penalties for violation, providing for definitions, interpretations, and repealing conflicts, providing for severability, approving a request to impact certain verifiable brick streets lying within said right-of-way, subject to conditions particularly set forth herein, providing effective date.
Motion made by Councilman Good, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Carlson,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Hurtak, Maniscalco,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Vieira,
Yes.
and Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Hurtak being absent. Second reading and adoption will be held on June 2nd, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Do you want to announce that date?
Item 53, file number PH 22-74005. The second public hearing is to be held on May 19th, 2022 at 10:30 a.m. or as soon thereafter.
And that has to be read? Does that have to be? It doesn't, it's just the title. The resolution just has to be moved at the second reading. Okay,
The resolution will be considered at the second public hearing.
that's fine, thank you.
Councilman, do we want to hear a hearing review hearing, excuse me, or do we
No,
want to go to lunch?
1:30.
1:30 is scheduled for 1:30.
Okay, there we go. We are adjourned until 1:30.